The sun was setting, bleeding across the sky like a fresh wound. I woke up in a dark, damp corner, my entire body screaming in agony. Before I could even figure out where I was, a shadow loomed over me. A hand reached down and slapped my face with mocking contempt. "Still acting tough, huh?" the guy sneered. "I've been beating you for this long, and you still won't open your mouth. It's just a single blood-sheet pill. Let's see how long that jaw stays locked." Suddenly, a heavy boot slammed into my stomach. The air left my lungs in a violent rush. I curled up like a shrimp, gasping for breath, my vision blurring from the pain. What the hell is going on? I cursed under my breath. Then, the memories hit me. Fragments of a life that wasn't mine flooded my brain. A galactic era, martial artists, school violence. It clicked. I had traveled into another body. And right now, I was being bullied. The original owner of this body was also named Chen Yuan. He was 18, an orphan whose parents had died in a cultist riot. The Interstellar Union provided him with a monthly subsidy, which included one blood-sheet pill to help him graduate. But in this world, having a treasure without the strength to protect it is a death sentence. A classmate named Wang Yao, who was stronger and faster, had been cornering Chen Yuan every month to extort the pill. Usually, the original Chen Yuan caved. This time, he had tried to stand his ground. He had been beaten to death for it. Wang Yao didn't even realize he was standing over a corpse that had just been reanimated by a soul from another world. I've never been the type to take a hit and walk away. Even if I couldn't win, I'd always make sure to bite a piece out of anyone who crossed me. Weakness only invites people like Wang Yao to push further. I gritted my teeth and forced myself to stand up, trembling. Wang Yao watched me, his lips curling into a smirk. "Oh, you saw I was getting tired, so you stood up to be a better punching bag? A waste of space like you doesn't deserve resources. Giving that pill to me is just good economics." I balled my fists, ready to go down swinging, when a flicker of blue light caught my eye. Floating text appeared in my field of vision. Name: Chen Yuan. Martial arts, blood exchange realm, level 1. Lifespan: 35 years. Technique: 8 extremities thunderblade, beginner. System: life sacrifice panel. The system offered 2 options: consume lifespan to instantly deduce martial arts, or consume resources to extend life. My eyes lit up. The original Chen Yuan had mediocre talent, and Wang Yao was leagues ahead of him. But now, the scales were about to tip. I wiped the blood from my mouth and looked at Wang Yao, who was closing in with a cruel grin. I didn't hesitate. System, I thought, burn my life. Leave me with 1 year. Use the rest. My lifespan counter plummeted. 35, 20, 15, until it hit 10. Vivid scenes flashed through my mind. I saw myself practicing the Thunderblade for years in total isolation. In the 2nd year, I reached the intermediate stage. By the 9th, I was a master. By the 18th year, I reached perfection, but I felt there was more. In the 25th year of this mental training, during a thunderstorm, I watched the lightning strike and understood the ultimate truth of the technique, the falling thunder flash. I had spent 25 years of my life in an instant. Back in reality, I raised my hand. I didn't have a weapon, but my palm became a blade. Power surged from my feet, through my hips, and into my arm. It was fast, blindingly fast. My hand left an afterimage as it struck Wang Yao's wrist before he could even react. Crack! My hand! Wang Yao screamed. He collapsed, clutching his shattered wrist. The bone was pulverized. He stared at me in pure shock. Thunderblade? How is it that fast? That's at least the perfection stage. He couldn't understand how a victim he'd been bullying for months had suddenly become a master. I didn't give him time to think. I stepped forward. Trash like you shouldn't get any stronger, I said coldly. I struck again. Crack! His other wrist snapped. I'm sorry. Yuan, I was wrong. Please stop. Wang Yao wailed, slumped on the ground, tears and snot streaming down his face. You aren't sorry you did it, I said, looking down at him. You're just sorry you're losing. I knew I couldn't kill him. In this era, fighting was common, which is why the teachers ignored the bullying. But if a student died, the authorities would step in, and I wasn't strong enough to fight the law yet. Besides, living like this would be worse. His martial arts career was essentially over. Forgiving you is easy, I said, my voice dropping to a whisper. But what's the price? Wang Yao just groaned in pain. I frowned and brought my boot down on his shin. You want to keep your legs? The pill. I have a blood chi pill in my pocket, he shrieked. I searched him quickly. I found his pill and 1,000 star credits in cash. I stuffed them into my own pocket. That's all I have, he sobbed. I used the old ones already. I can't give them back. So little. I muttered. I felt a surge of spite. Crunch. I stepped down hard, snapping his leg bone until it pierced the skin. Wang Yao's eyes rolled back, and he blacked out from the pain. I turned my back on him and walked away into the twilight. As I walked, I sorted through the memories of this new world. It was incredible. Humans had reached the stars long ago. There were starships, mechs, powerful martial artists, and terrifying alien races. We were currently on Blue-White Planet, a habitable world under the jurisdiction of the Interstellar Union. I was a student at Mountain City First High School. I was alone, I was injured, and I only had 10 years left to live. But as I felt the power of the thunder blade humming in my veins, I knew one thing for sure. This world was going to be a lot of fun. I was a senior in class 2, and graduation was only 3 months away. The original owner of this body had already planned his future. He was going to find a job at a company and work until he died. University wasn't even an option for him. In the Interstellar Union, getting into a good school was a nightmare. Each university existed in its own separate subspace. For a martial artist to even qualify for the entrance exams, they had to climb the ladder. You had to fight your way into the top 10,000 out of millions of competitors. Only then did you get the chance to compete against students from other planets. Blue-White Planet had its own local colleges, but they were garbage compared to the Union schools. The old Qin Yuan had no talent and no prospects, so he had just given up. He wanted to be a corporate slave. I had other plans. I didn't cross worlds just to be a cog in a machine. If I didn't aim for the stars, I was wasting my life. Besides, getting into a university was the best way to get resources. And for me, resources meant lifespan. I pulled 2 blood chi pills from my pocket. One was the loot I took from Wang Yao, and the other was my monthly government stipend. System, I whispered in my mind. Convert to lifespan. The pills vanished from my palm. My status panel flickered and updated instantly. My lifespan jumped from 10 years to 20. Each pill gave me 5 years of life. The exchange rate was incredible. I thought it would be 1-to-1, but a 5-fold return was a total jackpot. My Thunderblade technique was already at level 8, but my actual physical power was lagging. I needed a breathing technique to refine my blood chi. I decided to head to school to find one. But first, I needed to see where I stood. I needed to enter the ladder. The school was quiet since it was the weekend. The ladder was the backbone of the Union's education system. With 10 billion people on Blue-White Planet, you couldn't just have everyone fight in a physical arena. Instead, they used virtual reality combat pods. The ladder was a literal stairway to heaven. If you could break into the top 10,000, your life changed forever. The Union poured all its resources into those elite students. For a normal person, it was the only way to change their destiny. I walked into the school's combat room. It was the size of a football field, filled with rows of sleek metallic pods. Even on a Saturday, the place was buzzing. Yes, my Black Tiger fist reached mastery, someone shouted nearby. I broke into the top 4 million. Screw that guy? He used a sneak attack. Another student yelled, slamming his pod shut. I ignored the noise. The original owner had a monthly allowance of free pod time from the government, but he had been too depressed to ever use it. The hours just refreshed every month and went to waste. It was a tragedy. I found a pod in a quiet corner and swiped my student ID. I chose to log in with my real name. You couldn't rank up if you stayed anonymous. The world blurred for a split second. When my eyes snapped open, I was standing under a vast, cloudless blue sky. A cool breeze brushed against my face. It felt indistinguishable from reality. I was standing on a massive stone platform, 10,000 meters wide. A rack of weapons stood off to the side, gleaming in the virtual sun. I checked my rank. I was sitting at number 8,593,999, basically the bottom of the ocean. I grabbed a standard long blade from the rack and adjusted the weight settings until it felt perfect. I took a deep breath and centered myself. Start matchmaking, I muttered. A few seconds later, the air shimmered. A girl with a high ponytail and freckles appeared across from me. I narrowed my eyes and checked her rank. She was at Blood Exchange Realm Level 1. Her rank was only 50 spots higher than mine, meaning she was likely a newcomer who had just registered. Above us, a massive holographic timer flickered into existence. It began the countdown. 10, 9, 8. Hi there, the girl called out, waving with a cheerful grin. She seemed like the talkative type. I'm from Mudu 3rd High, a freshman. Where are you from? Looks like we're both level 1. I didn't answer. I just watched the numbers drop. 2, 1. The battle started. Falling thunder flash. I roared internally. I channeled the meager blood chi in my body, forcing it to flow and accumulate with explosive intensity. In an instant, the power gathered at the tip of my blade. I didn't hold back. I went straight for the ultimate technique of the 8th grade Thunderblade. Boom. A bolt of lightning seemed to strike from the cloudless sky. The sound of thunder echoed across the stone platform. This strike was leagues faster and more powerful than the hand chop I'd used to break Wang Yao's arm. It wasn't just the blood chi, it was the weapon. I was holding a real blade now. It was sharp enough to slice through the air itself. The girl was still smiling when the blade reached her. Her head hit the ground with a dull thud before she could even blink. Her body shattered into glowing data fragments and dissolved into the air. You talk too much during a fight, I muttered. My face was pale, and my breath hitched in my chest. Whether she could hear me in the lobby or not didn't matter. I had won. I looked at my interface. I had officially taken over her ranking. However, a serious problem hit me immediately. I was exhausted. The falling thunder flash was incredibly powerful, but it drained my blood chi instantly. I felt hollowed out, like my very essence had been sucked dry. I leaned heavily on my long blade, gasping for air. Thankfully, this wasn't reality. In the virtual arena, my status was just numbers. With a single thought, my depleted blood chi surged back to full capacity in less than a second. This was exactly why students love these pods. In the real world, recovering this much energy would take hours of meditation and rest. Here, I could spam my strongest moves, recover instantly, and do it all over again. It was the perfect place to grind proficiency. Again, I whispered, let's see how far this Thunderblade can take me. I hit the matchmaking button again. A moment later, a new opponent appeared. He was a guy with short hair, wielding a long spear. I glanced at his stats. His name was Lu Qing, and he was at Blood Exchange Realm Level 3. The system's matchmaking was smart. After my one-shot victory, it realized I wasn't a typical beginner. Lu Qing's rank was in the 6 millions, nearly 2 million spots higher than mine. It was a stark reminder of the martial arts pyramid. The gap between level 1 and level 3 was represented by millions of people. Lu Qing twirled his spear, looking at me with disdain. A level 1? I came here to test my new Sky Shatter spear technique, and the system gives me a rookie? Whatever. It's your bad luck, kid. Don't blame me when I put a hole through you. I ignored him, my eyes fixed on the timer. Playing the silent expert, huh? Boring, Lu Qing scoffed, dropping into a combat stance. 3, 2, 1. Start. Falling thunder flash. Sky Shatter triple. Lu Qing didn't even finish the name of his move. My blade tore through the air, arriving at his throat in a blur of light. The thunderous crack exploded in his ears, and his spear clattered to the ground. I watched the light fade from his eyes. A massive, diagonal wound split his chest open, so deep I could see his heart fluttering behind his ribs. You damn smuffer. He gasped, his voice choked with blood and censored profanity. Smuffers deserve to die. Then he vanished. Smuffer. I blinked. I knew the term from my old life, but I didn't realize they used the same slang here. I didn't dwell on it. I felt a surge of satisfaction. I had just one-shot the level 3 expert. Those 25 years of lifespan I spent on the Thunderblade were worth every second. The falling thunder flash was all about extreme speed. Against anyone near my level, it was a guaranteed first encounter kill. They simply couldn't react in time. I kept going. The system matched me against a level 4 opponent. He was stronger than Lu Qing, but the result was the same. One strike, one head on the floor. My rank climbed another million spots, landing around 5.3 million. The level 4 guy had looked at me with such pure, burning hatred before he disappeared that I actually rubbed the back of my neck. It's just a game, I muttered. Why so angry? Just respawn and try again. I recovered my chi and queued up once more. The system took longer this time, nearly 30 seconds. It was struggling to find a fair match for a level 1 who kept killing everyone instantly. Finally, a new opponent materialized. He was a level 6 spearman, ranked in the 3 millions. The countdown ended. I lunged. Falling thunder flash. Boom. Clang. For the first time, my blade didn't find flesh. Sparks flew as metal slammed against metal. The screech of the collision was deafening. The spearman's hands were trembling, his knuckles white from the impact, but he had blocked it. An 8th grade martial art intent. The spearman looked at me, his eyes widening in shock. Then, he checked my rank and level. His face turned bright red with rage. Level 1. I hate you smuffing bastards the most. Die. He thrust his spear forward. I was still recovering from my own strike, my blood chi spent. The spearhead buried itself in my chest. A violent vibration rippled through the shaft, and my vision turned white as my body was blown into fragments. I sat up abruptly as the pod hissed open. The pain was muted by the system, but the sensation of dying was still jarring. Level 6 is no joke, I whispered, climbing out of the machine. His reaction time was insane. He actually caught the flash. The vibration in his spear told me his own technique was at least at the mastery level. As I walked away, I felt a strange sense of excitement. In this world, geniuses were everywhere. Even if a talent was 1 in a million, on a planet with 10 billion people, there were 10,000 monsters just like that. And that was just one planet in a vast federation. My heart hammered against my ribs. I wanted to see it all. I wanted to stand on the galactic stage and face the real legends. Not yet, I told myself, pulling my student ID from the slot. Soon, but not yet. I turned and left the combat room. I had work to do. I had a plan. I needed to borrow a stance-based cultivation technique to raise my martial arts realm. As I walked out of the combat room, someone laughed. That kid was fast. He was only in the pod for a few minutes before giving up. Who is he? Another person asked. He looks familiar, but I don't see him here often. A girl with short hair and a flat chest spoke up. Her name was Li Mingmao. He's in my class. We call her Tiger Girl, remember? Tiger Girl? Your whole family are tigers. Li Mingmao snapped back, looking like she wanted to punch them. She took a breath and continued. That was Qin Yuan. He practiced the 8 Extreme Thunderblade for a while, but he gave up after realizing he had no talent for martial arts. He's only at the first layer of the blood exchange realm. She paused, looking thoughtful. Maybe he just couldn't let it go. His parents were murdered by cultists. I think he wanted one last try at getting strong enough for revenge. The room went silent. Cultists were the common enemy of all humanity. There was no room for compromise with them. Knowing Qin Yuan's past, no one had the heart to mock him anymore. If they were in his shoes, they would have tried one last time too, even if it meant failing miserably. It's a pity, Li Mingmao sighed. It's hard enough for us. It's even worse for an orphan like Qin Yuan who has no talent or family support. Even if most of these students didn't make it to a top university, they could still join the army or the law enforcement squads. They had a future. But for someone like Qin Yuan, the road was a dead end. In the entire Shanxing First High School, only a handful of people were ranked in the top 10,000 on the ladder. Those were the true seeds for the great universities. The rest of them were just struggling not to drown. Suddenly, a loud curse shattered the gloomy atmosphere. Damn it! I ran into a disgusting smuffer. What a piece of trash. It was Lu Qing. He was a loudmouth with a decent family background who spent a lot of time training. He wasn't a genius, but he was stubborn as a mule. Lu Qing, weren't you excited to try out your new breakthrough? Someone teased. Did you get wrecked? Don't even talk to me. Lu Qing fumed, his face red. I met a smuffer, level 1 blood exchange realm, and he killed me in a single strike. I finally made progress and wanted to test it, and this guy ruins my day. His 8 Extreme Thunderblade was insane. I've seen mastery level blades, but this was beyond that. It had to be at the perfection level. He spat on the ground. If he was level 8 or 9, I'd accept it. But level 1? He clearly started a new account just to hunt newbies. It's pathetic. In virtual combat, you could lower your displayed realm, but you couldn't raise it above your actual strength. Some high-level experts loved creating new accounts to slaughter beginners for fun. Everyone hated fish fryers like that. If you got caught doing it, you'd be shamed for life. Report him, someone shouted. Hang him up and beat him. I've met those guys too. They're the worst. Li Mingmao frowned. A level 1 blood exchange user? 8 extreme thunderblade? And he logged out at the exact same time as Qin Yuan? Lu Qing, she asked suddenly. Did you see his name? Lu Qing rubbed his head, confused by her serious tone. Of course I did. I reported him 10 times before leaving. It was Qin something. Qin Yuan. Yeah, that was it. Just by the name, you can tell he's a sneaky, ugly bastard. He stopped talking when he realized Li Mingmao and the others were staring at him in dead silence. He shivered. Why are you looking at me like that? You're scaring me. Qin Yuan, someone whispered. Was it really the guy from your class who just left? It has to be, Li Mingmao said. She didn't want to believe it, but the coincidences were too perfect. The smuffer is the kid from your class. Lu Qing gasped. Li Mingmao didn't even bother correcting him for calling her tiger girl this time. He wasn't smuffing. That was probably his first time using a combat pod. You just had bad luck and ran into him. If what you said is true, a perfection level 8 extreme thunderblade. He's been hiding it so deep that no one noticed. Lu Qing was dazed. But why level 1? Why stay at level 1 if he's that good? It doesn't help his ladder ranking. Who knows? Li Mingmao gave a self-deprecating laugh. Maybe he was just testing a move, just like you. Geniuses think differently. She felt like a fool. A moment ago, she was pitying Qin Yuan for having no talent. Now, she realized she was the one who looked pathetic. She was certain now, Qin Yuan was a hidden genius. With the latter season ending soon, he was finally stepping out of the shadows. It had happened before in the history of the Star Federation. Geniuses were always a bit strange. I walked into the school's martial arts library. I needed a foundation. I need a stance-based cultivation technique, I told the administrator. Student ID, the man said without looking up. He took my card, swiped it, and paused. He looked at me with a strange expression but didn't say anything. He handed me a tablet. These are the different styles. Pick one. Basic techniques are free, and you can take more than one if you want. But let me warn you, the goal of a stance is to temper your blood chi. One is enough. If you try to learn too many, you'll master none. You're a senior now. I recommend a style that focuses on speed. You don't have time to waste. I understood why he looked at me that way. I was 3 months away from graduation. Starting a new foundation stance now seemed like a desperate, useless move to anyone else. Thanks for the advice, I said, taking the tablet. Basic martial arts were for those in the blood exchange realm. My Thunderblade was a basic technique, and these stances were the same. They were the building blocks, and I was going to use them to build something incredible. I used my high school ID to browse the library's digital catalog. Basic techniques were free, but the graded manuals required star credits. It worked like a royalty system. The creators got a cut whenever someone studied their work. It kept the martial arts world evolving. I knew that once I got into a university, most of these mid-tier techniques would be free anyway, but I couldn't wait that long. I scrolled through the tablet, looking at the different stances. Every single one was designed to temper blood chi, but they all had different specialties. Some focused on speed, while others prioritized the sheer volume of energy. I stopped when I saw a technique called the Great Dragon Stance. It was designed to purify blood chi to an extreme degree. The downside was obvious. It was painfully slow to practice. Most students avoided it because they didn't have years to waste. But I wasn't most students. Are you sure about this? The administrator asked when I made my choice. He looked at me like I was a lost cause. I'm sure, I said. Send it over. He didn't try to argue. He just transferred the data to my personal terminal with a shrug. Good luck. Maybe I'll see your name in the top 10,000 on the ladder someday. I couldn't tell if he was mocking me or being sincere. I didn't care. I went straight home and locked my door. I opened the file and studied the Great Dragon Stance. Like my Thunderblade, it was broken into 4 stages: entry, small success, great success, and perfection. With every stage, the purity of my blood would skyrocket. At perfection, my blood chi would be twice as potent as anyone else at my level. I pulled up my status panel. I had 20 years of life left. It was time to burn them. I focused on the Great Dragon stance and triggered the deduction. In the first year of my mental training, I hit the entry stage with ease. My cultivation jumped to the second level of the blood exchange realm. I felt a surge of confidence. This seemed simple. By years 2 and 3, the progress slowed to a crawl. The difficulty spiked, and I realized why people hated this technique. By year 5, I finally reached small success. I was now at the third level of the blood exchange realm. My bones ached from the phantom effort. From year 6 to 13, I pushed myself through a grueling daily grind. I reached the 5th level, but I hit a wall just before great success. I realized then that I didn't actually have much natural talent for martial arts. I was only moving forward because I was forcing my way through time. Finally, at year 15, I broke through. I reached great success in the stance and hit the 6th level of the blood exchange realm. I looked at my remaining lifespan. I didn't have enough left to reach perfection. I stopped the deduction. 15 years of my life vanished in a heartbeat. The transformation was violent. My blood chi didn't just flow anymore. It roared through my veins like a dam had burst. My body physically changed. I grew taller and my muscles filled out, becoming lean and hard in seconds. I was 10 times stronger than I had been 5 minutes ago. I felt rooted to the floor, every muscle in my legs perfectly connected to the earth. I could feel the flow of power rising from my feet, through my waist, and into my hands. I was a level 6 warrior with a great success stance and an ultimate blade technique. I felt like I could take on 100 versions of my former self. But there was a catch. I only had 5 years of life left. I needed to find more resources to fuel my system, and I needed them fast. The next morning, I sat in class, trying to act normal. The history teacher was a balding old man who loved the sound of his own voice. He was lecturing about the Star Era, the war with the Morse race, and the terrifying star beasts that could crush entire fleets. He explained how humanity realized that individual power was the only way to survive. That was how the Age of Warriors began. Even with all our mechs and technology, the warrior was still the backbone of civilization. Everyone in that room was desperate to become one. When the bell rang, I started packing my bag. A girl with short hair walked up to my desk. I recognized her, Li Mingmao. She was one of the top students in our class, someone everyone looked up to. Chen Yuan, she said, her voice friendly but firm. Do you want to head to the combat room? I looked up, surprised. Do I know you? She smiled. I saw you in the training room yesterday. I want to see what you've got. How about a match on the virtual platform? I realized my strength must have leaked somehow. It wasn't like I possessed some legendary aura that made people worship me at first sight. The only logical explanation was my performance on the ladder in the combat room yesterday. Li Mingmao must have found out, and now she was extending an olive branch. No problem, I said, standing up. I was heading to the combat room anyway. I didn't know much about the martial artists in this world yet. Having a free guide was an opportunity one wasn't going to turn down. We both moved with the efficiency of trained fighters, leaving the classroom immediately. As soon as we stepped out, the room erupted into a low buzz of gossip. Li Mingmao was a star student, a recognized martial artist. I was a nobody, a loner who stayed in the shadows. The class couldn't wrap their heads around why she was interested in me. One of Wang Yao's friends spoke up, his voice trembling slightly. He mentioned that Wang Yao had tried to borrow money because both of his arms were shattered. He'd seen Wang Yao dragging a reluctant me away the day before. Everyone knew Wang Yao was a bully who preyed on the weak. Connecting Wang Yao's hospital visit with Li Mingmao's sudden interest, the rumors started flying. Was I actually a powerful martial artist? Judging by Li Mingmao's attitude, I wasn't just some amateur. When we reached the combat room, the atmosphere was different. Li Mingmao was a regular here. People called out to her as we walked in. Hey, Tiger Girl is here. Who's the guy with her? Don't you know? That's the smuffer who wrecked Lu Xing yesterday. Li Mingmao's face went cold. Her eyes twitched at the mention of the nickname Tiger Girl, but she took a deep breath and ignored them. She turned to me, her voice tight. Ignore those idiots. Let's find a booth. But after we fight, I have some questions for you. Win against me, and I'll tell you whatever you want, I replied, scanning for an empty pod. We both stepped into our respective machines. I swiped my student ID, closed my eyes, and let the system sink. My mind blurred for a second before I materialized in the virtual combat platform. A notification popped up immediately. Li Mingmao requested to be my friend. I hit accept. A second later, a dual invitation followed. I accepted. The wind whipped across a massive stone arena, 100 meters wide. It was the default setting, though the system allowed for anything from deep sea to zero-gravity vacuum. Li Mingmao stood 50 meters away, browsing the weapon rack. She chose a pair of standard combat gloves. I grabbed a standard long blade. I wasn't picky about the gear. Li Mingmao narrowed her eyes as she looked at my displayed stats. Blood Exchange Realm, level 6. She assumed I had hidden my true level yesterday. She was only level 5, but her intent punch had recently reached the great success stage. She felt she had a chance. Her fighting spirit surged, her blood boiling with excitement. She didn't care about my techniques. She only cared about winning. That was her martial will. She dropped into her starting stance. She felt faster, sharper, better than ever. She truly believed she could win. I looked at the countdown timer floating in the air. I needed to finish this and get back to the ladder to test my limits. 3, 2, 1, start. Li Mingmao lunged. She threw the most perfect punch of her life, pouring every ounce of her will into the strike. The intent punch grew stronger with the user's emotion. But halfway through the motion, her fist stopped. Her entire right arm felt like it was pinned by a mountain. A wave of exhaustion washed over her. In the next heartbeat, her vision shifted. Her upper body slid away from her legs. I had cut her clean in half. Her avatar dissolved into glowing blue data fragments. I exhaled, sheathing my blade. I didn't waste time. I immediately queued for the next ladder match. Back in the physical world, Li Mingmao bolted upright in her pod, her face a mask of pure confusion. A crowd of her friends rushed over, eager to hear the result. How'd it go, Tiger Girl? Did you win? Lu Xing, the guy I beat the day before, walked over with a smug grin. Look at her face. She got wrecked. That Smurfer is a monster. He beat me when he was only level 1. There's no way she stood a chance. Li Mingmao snapped. She grabbed Lu Xing by the collar and shoved him toward an empty pod. You think you're funny? Get in. Let's see if your skills match your mouth. She couldn't beat me, but she could certainly take her frustration out on him. The crowd watched them go, realizing the truth. Even a top student like Li Mingmao had been crushed. Inside the virtual world, I didn't care about the drama. Thanks to the Great Dragon stance, my blood was incredibly pure. Even though I was level 6, my raw power rivaled a level 7. Combined with my level 8 Thunderblade technique, losing wasn't an option. The matches blurred together. First opponent, level 6. 1 second, 1 kill. Rank 3.79 million. Second opponent, level 7. Defeated. Rank 2.7 million. Third opponent, level 8 with a mastered saber technique. We clashed for 3 minutes, the air ringing with the sound of steel. Eventually, I found an opening and ended it. Rank 1.92 million. I stood in the center of the arena, breathing hard. My stamina was flagging, and my blood energy was running low. I was pushing the limits of this body, but I needed to go higher. 5 years of life wasn't enough. I needed to be stronger. I was satisfied with my progress, but the limits of the blood exchange realm were becoming clear. Most fighters at the 8th level had already mastered at least one martial art to the great success stage. My advantage in technique was slowly being eroded. Beyond just blood energy, the gap in levels meant a massive difference in strength, speed, and reaction time. It was getting harder to close that distance. In my final match of the session, I barely scraped by with a win. I was panting, my muscles aching. It seemed rank 1.92 million was my current ceiling. One last match, I muttered to myself. Let's see what's behind the curtain. I hit the matchmaking button. This time, the system took a full minute to find an opponent. When the light flashed, a man named Huang Su appeared across from me. Level 9 Blood Exchange Realm. Rank 980,000. Huang Su glanced at my stats and raised an eyebrow. Level 6? And your rank this high? You must have grasped the true intent of your martial arts. He wasn't worried. He hadn't mastered intent himself, but he was experienced. To him, a 3-level gap in cultivation was a mountain that no amount of technique could climb. I looked at his rank again. 980,000. A level 9 expert was only just breaking into the top million. This was the Star Federation era, a time when the stars were crowded with geniuses. The universe was vast enough to hold countless monsters far stronger than me. The countdown hit 0. Thunder slash. I roared, my blade turning into a blur of lightning. 9-star array. Huang Su countered, his sword light erupting like a supernova. We didn't test the waters. We went all in from the first second. The stone arena floor cracked under our feet, spiderwebbing outward as stone chips flew like shrapnel. I was forced back 3 steps, my face flushing a deep, unnatural red. The sheer weight of his cultivation hit me like a truck. For the first time, I was losing the physical exchange. Huang Su didn't give me a chance to breathe. He leaped high into the air, his sword raised for a finishing blow. My eyes flashed with a golden light. In a fight, jumping is a gamble. Once your feet leave the ground, you lose your source of power and your ability to dodge. I didn't have time to charge a full thunder slash, so I aimed a lethal strike straight for his throat. Then, something impossible happened. Huang Su kicked the empty air. His body surged upward another few feet, defying gravity. My blade hissed through the space where his chest had been a millisecond before. Perfect movement technique, brother, Huang Su grinned. While I was overextended and off balance, he lunged. His sword pierced my heart. Good blade work, he said as my vision began to fade. Don't log off yet. I'll add you. I've got a job for you if you want to make some serious money. I woke up in the real world, my head spinning with questions. A notification popped up immediately, a friend request from Huang Su. I accepted it, but before I could send a message, his icon went dark. He'd logged off. What a weird guy, I muttered. I climbed out of the virtual pod, feeling the weight of the day. I was level 6, but had the combat power of a level 8. Against a level 9, I had less than a 10% chance of winning. I needed resources. Training manually would take forever, and I couldn't keep trading my life away for free. Was lifespan trading cheating? Maybe. But some people were born with talent, and others were born with silver spoons in their mouths. If they called that gifted, then I'd call my system a gift too. A big cheat is a cheat, and a small one is still a cheat. I just had a different currency. I stepped out into the hall and realized a crowd had gathered around my pod. Yo, the Smuffer is finally out. Hey Smuffer, you wrecked me yesterday. A familiar, slightly annoying voice rang out. It was Lu Xing. I looked at him, confused. Smuffer. I knew the term, but I didn't know if it meant the same thing in this world. I looked at Li Mingmao, hoping for an explanation. She sighed, pushed the babbling Lu Xing aside, and explained that they thought I was a high-level pro using a low-level account to bully beginners. It was my first time using a pod yesterday, I lied smoothly. I didn't really understand how the ranking worked. It was the easiest way to avoid trouble. The crowd's tension melted instantly. In the martial world, strength is everything. If you're strong, you're right. Since I had beaten Li Mingmao, they already respected me. Chen Yuan, how do you train? Lu Xing asked, leaning in. What brand of nutrient solution do you drink? Share the secret. Yeah, another student chimed in. Lu Xing said your Thunderblade is incredible. Which martial arts hall do you go to? Weak people have to struggle to fit in. Strong people just have to stand there, and the crowd will move toward them. Nutrient solution? I shrugged. I don't have the money for that. I've never tasted it. I wanted to join a martial arts hall once, but I couldn't afford the fees. I wasn't lying. The original owner of this body was broke. But my words turned the hallway silent. They all remembered what Li Mingmao had said. My parents were gone, killed by cultists. I was an orphan. They looked at each other, speechless. No nutrients? No professional coaching? And he was still this strong? If I wasn't a genius, then what were they? They drank nutrient solution like water and had private tutors, yet they were lagging behind. They felt like trash. Chen Yuan, Li Mingmao said, breaking the awkward silence. You said you had something to ask me earlier? Right? I said, getting straight to the point. I need to know if there's a way for a blood exchange fighter to make money fast. I've realized my cultivation is way too slow without resources. The crowd winced again. Too slow? If my speed was slow, they were basically turtles. But I wasn't trying to insult them. I was dead serious. Without money for resources, I couldn't fuel the system, and without the system, I was just a man waiting to die in 5 years. I didn't know much about the martial arts world. I didn't know how to hustle or where the money was hiding. My only choice was to ask people like Li Mingmao. A blood exchange fighter? Li Mingmao frowned, thinking it over. To be honest, there isn't much someone at your level can do to earn big money. Lu Qing nodded in agreement. Usually, martial artists work as guards for merchant ships. Space pirates are everywhere these days, so the shipping companies are always hiring muscle. My family has a small company, and even we keep a few fighters on the payroll long-term. My heart sank a little. Being a ship guard sounded great, but I knew my limits. At the 6th level of the blood exchange realm, I wasn't qualified for the heavy-duty stuff. What about tutoring? I asked, unwilling to give up. Like teaching kids how to use a blade. Tutoring? Li Mingmao scoffed. Why would they hire you when they could go to a professional martial arts hall? You don't have the connections, Chen Yuan. You don't know who needs a teacher, and nobody knows you're looking. You're a ghost in this market. Lu Qing looked at me with a bit of pity. Making money wasn't going to be as easy as I thought. But I couldn't just sit around waiting for the Federation's monthly handout. 1 blood chi pill a month was a joke. I needed more, and I needed it now. Actually, we don't really worry about money, so we aren't the best experts, Lu Qing said suddenly. If you want to talk business, you need to find Huang Su from high school number 2. That guy is obsessed with cash. The name Huang Su sounded familiar. I wondered if it was just a coincidence. Li Mingmao sighed at the mention of the name. Huang Su. That guy acts friendly, but he's got incredibly high standards. If you don't have real talent, he won't even look at you. If he didn't spend all his time chasing money, he'd have reached the aperture opening realm by now. He'd probably be ranked in the top 100,000. This Huang Su, I interrupted quietly. Is his ladder ranking around 980,000? Li Mingmao and Lu Qing both froze. You know him? Before I could answer, the door to the combat room slammed open with a loud bang. A man walked in. He had sharp eyebrows, intense eyes, and a long sword strapped to his back. He looked cold, scanning the room until his gaze locked onto mine. A small, satisfied smirk broke across his face. I knew you'd still be here, he said. Huang Su, I asked, still trying to process the coincidence. It really was him, the guy I had just fought in the virtual arena. The crowd gasped. Huang Su was famous for being picky. He didn't just hang out with anyone, yet here he was, seeking me out. It's me, Huang Su said, his cold swordsman persona instantly vanishing as he grinned. After I added you, I saw your profile said high school number 1. Talking online is a hassle, so I just came here to find you in person. Glad I didn't miss you. So, about that job you mentioned? I asked. I wanted to get straight to it before I got caught up in his pace. Huang Su didn't beat around the bush. You've mastered the hidden essence of the 8 Extremes Thunderblade, right? I have a client, a wealthy boss, whose son is practicing that exact style. He's desperate to find a tutor who actually understands the essence. Are you interested? You'd be doing me a huge favor. Li Mingmao and Lu Qing looked like they had seen a ghost. Wait, Lu Qing stammered. That strike you used on me. That was the martial essence? She looked shaken. She finally understood why that lightning-fast strike had left her so terrified. Li Mingmao finally realized why he had been one-shot despite being only 1 level below me. You guys didn't know? Huang Su laughed. Is martial essence really that rare? I was confused too. Their reaction seemed extreme. In the blood exchange realm, most fighters have 1 or 2 techniques at Grandmaster level. If you study them long enough, shouldn't the essence come naturally? When I used the system to deduce the Thunderblade, it took 8 years to reach Grandmaster and only 7 more to reach the essence. It seemed like a standard progression to me. It's not about how rare it is, Li Mingmao said, waving his hands around, trying to find the words. It's about the cost. Huang Su stepped in to explain. Look, reaching the essence isn't impossible, but it's about efficiency. Once you hit Grandmaster in a basic technique, you're usually close to breaking into the aperture opening realm. Most people choose to focus all their energy on that breakthrough. Once you level up, you can learn higher-grade martial arts that are way more powerful. Spending years mastering the essence of a basic move is usually considered a waste of time. He looked at me with newfound respect. That's why you never see it at our level. I've reached Grandmaster in my sword style and my stance, and that's usually enough. But you actually took the slow path. He was trying to be helpful because he needed me. If I took this job, he'd gain a massive connection with a wealthy client. What's the pay? I asked. I prefer cultivation resources over cash. You can negotiate that directly with the boss, Huang Su promised, patting his chest. I won't even take a commission this time. My reputation is on the line here. This is a guaranteed win for you. If he likes you, the guy is loaded. Fine, I said. I was desperate to live. When do we go? Meet me at the school gate tomorrow at noon, Huang Su said, looking relieved. He said his goodbyes and vanished as quickly as he had arrived. He moves fast, I muttered. He's running, Lu Qing laughed. He's afraid of getting caught. He scammed one of our top students, Shang Wanji, a few years back. If Shang Wanji knew he was here, Huang Su would be leaving in an ambulance. Who is Shang Wanji? I asked. My memories of this world were still full of holes. Lu Qing looked at me like I had two heads. You really don't know? He's the pride of our school. An aperture opening powerhouse. His ladder rank is 8,321. Rank 8,000. I felt a chill. In this era, with billions of people, a 4-digit rank was terrifyingly strong. Geniuses were everywhere, but a rank like that meant he was a monster among monsters. Still, I had one more question burning in my mind. If Shang Wanji is so famous, why haven't I seen him at school? I asked. Don't people like him use the combat rooms to climb the ladder? Li Mingmao gave a bitter laugh. They don't lack money. Their families build private combat rooms for them at home. They don't need to squeeze in here with the rest of us. I turned to Lu Qing. I knew his family ran an interstellar trade business and needed martial artists to protect their cargo from space pirates. Anyone in that business was loaded. Your family isn't short on cash either, Lu Qing. Why do you come to the school's combat room? The atmosphere at home is dead quiet, Lu Qing said with a grin. The school gym is where the action is. People here are fun to talk to. If I stayed home, I'd probably go crazy. I stayed silent. Rich people and their whims. With less than 3 months until graduation, the school didn't really care if martial arts students showed up for class. There wasn't much left for me here anyway, aside from the library and the gym. I left the campus but didn't head home. Instead, I followed my terminal's navigation to the city center. I found a shop specializing in nutritional fluids. I needed to know the market price for resources, not just for my meeting tomorrow, but to figure out the math of my own survival. Welcome, a beautiful clerk said, stepping forward as I entered. How can I help you? What's the price for blood chi pills? I asked. I didn't want to waste time. That depends on the grade, she replied politely. A grade 1 pill is 70,000 credits. Grade 2 is 300,000. As for grade 3 and above, we aren't licensed to sell those. She was respectful. Most people who walked in here were martial artists, and a regular clerk wouldn't risk offending one just to vent some bad mood. What about nutritional fluids? I asked. Lu Qing had mentioned them earlier. The pricing for those is more complex, she explained. Even for grade 1, the brand matters. Shenzhou and Latte are the big ones. Shenzhou can be over 50% more expensive. Can I see the Shenzhou brand? I asked, frowning. I had a theory I needed to test. Did nutritional fluid count as a resource for the system? Could I convert it into lifespan even if I didn't own it yet? So far, the only thing I knew for sure worked was the blood chi pill. One pill cost 70,000 and gave me 5 years. The math wasn't a clean 1-to-1 ratio. This way, please. She led me to a counter where several milky white vials were displayed. The grade 1 Shenzhou fluid was 30,000 credits. The Latte brand was only 20,000. I hovered my hand near the glass, focusing my mind. I felt a familiar pull. It worked. The fluid was a valid resource, but I couldn't convert it through the glass. I had to actually touch it. I recommend Shenzhou, the clerk said, pushing for the sale. They're an old Earth brand. You get what you pay for, and their quality is guaranteed. They've held a 99% approval rating for centuries. Unlike pills, which were monopolized by the Star Federation, the nutritional fluid market was full of competition. She was clearly fishing for a commission. I'll think about it, I said, shaking my head. I felt a bit embarrassed, but I was dead broke. If I weren't so attached to my family's old house, I would have sold it already. I stepped out of the shop, but a voice stopped me immediately. Chun Yuan. It was Lu Qing. I thought you went home, he laughed, walking up to me. If I knew you were coming here, I would have given you a ride. Just looking around, I said. Lu Qing noticed I was empty-handed. He remembered me saying I'd never used nutritional fluid before, and his eyes lit up. What's the rush? Let me show you around properly. He grabbed my shoulder and pulled me back into the store I had just left. The clerk looked stunned to see me again, but when she saw Lu Qing, her eyes went wide. She knew a big spender when she saw one. Young Master Lu, the usual? She asked. The usual, plus an extra set, Lu Qing said, gesturing toward me. This is my friend. Make sure you give him a discount next time he's in. I hesitated for a second, then nodded. Thanks. I was desperate. I couldn't afford to be proud. Don't sweat it. Lu Qing waved it off. My family owns shares in this place. He started lecturing me on why Shinjo was the best brand while I stared at the vial in my hand. 30,000 credits. I wondered how many years this was worth. That night, under a clear, starlit sky, I sat in my room. Nutritional fluids weren't like pills. Pills boosted your chi directly. Fluids were just supplements. They helped your body recover faster so you could train more often. For a normal person, it was a secondary boost. For me, it was fuel. I shook the vial. The thick, purple liquid looked like overcooked soup. I focused. Suddenly, the liquid vanished, leaving the bottle empty. I pulled up my status panel. Name, Qin Yuan. Realm, Blood Exchange, Level 6. Martial Arts, Thunderblade, Level 8. Great Dragon Stance, Great Success. Remaining lifespan, 7 years. It went up by 2 years. I did the math in my head. 30,000 credits for 2 years meant 15,000 per year. The blood chi pills cost 70,000 for 5 years, which was 14,000 per year. The pills were slightly more efficient, but only by a tiny margin. At least now I knew. Everything had a price, and I finally knew exactly how much my life was worth. The effect was nearly double what I expected. If I had used the Latte brand nutritional fluid, I probably would have only gained a single year of life. In terms of cost-effectiveness, the blood chi pills were the best, followed by the Shinjo fluid, with Latte coming in last. I looked at my system. I wanted to master the Great Dragon Stance, but I had a sinking feeling that 7 years wouldn't be enough to reach the finish line. I decided to hold off for now. To everyone else, it probably looked like I was giving up on the technique, but I was just waiting. If everything went according to plan tomorrow, I'd get a portion of my payment in advance. That should give me enough lifespan to push the Great Dragon Stance to perfection, with maybe even a little left over. The next day, I arrived at the artificial lake at First High School. A few white birds drifted lazily across the water, and a light breeze sent ripples across the blue surface, blurring the reflection of the school buildings. Qin Yuan, over here, over here. I spotted Huang Su near the school entrance, waving his arms and acting suspicious. When he kept his mouth shut, he looked like a sharp, elegant swordsman, but the moment he started moving, he looked like a total creep. If you're so worried about Shangwanji finding you, why didn't we meet at Second High instead? I asked, feeling a bit speechless. This is what I call sincerity. Huang Su snapped, his neck stiffening as he tried to save face. Can't you feel my sincerity? I had to admit, his lack of ego was refreshing. Despite being a master at the 9th level of the blood exchange realm, he didn't act superior at all. It made it easy to talk to him. Let's go, I said. Making money is the priority. Right on. Money. Money. Huang Su cheered, leading the way. Shortly after we left, a man with yellowish hair arrived at the school gates. He looked around, his face darkening as he gnashed his teeth. Damn it, Shangwanji hissed. That yellow fox slipped away again. We arrived at the entrance of the Huan district. So? A little surprised, Huang Su asked with a grin. A little, I admitted. Huan was a famous luxury neighborhood in Shancheng, but it wasn't quite the sprawling estate I'd imagined based on how much Huang Su had been bragging about the client's background. He'd spent the whole walk talking about how powerful and wealthy this big boss was. Transferring money now, Huang Su laughed, opening his terminal to contact the client. A moment later, an elderly butler in a formal suit stepped out and scanned us through the gate. Mr. Huang Su, the butler said, his posture perfect. The master is away today, so I am in full charge of the young master's affairs. However, besides yourself, Mr. Wang Lei has also brought a saber master. The butler glanced at me, his eyes lingering as if he were weighing my worth. Huang Su narrowed his eyes. Wang Lei. The butler nodded slightly. In the world of martial arts, the strong prevail. Whoever has a deeper understanding of the 8-level Thunderblade will take the commission. Fine by me, Huang Su said, his voice dripping with confidence. The butler led us upstairs. To my surprise, the entire building was empty of other residents. It seemed the big boss had bought the whole block. Some floors had been completely renovated, and I saw uniformed servants busy cleaning the halls. It wasn't a private villa, but it was close enough. It was clear that even if the kid was an illegitimate son, the father cared enough to give him everything. As soon as we walked into the apartment, I didn't see the son. Instead, I saw 2 other people. Huang Su, one of them said. Wang Lei, Huang Su replied. Wang Lei looked much older than Huang Su, maybe in his late 30s with thinning hair. The air in the room turned heavy with tension immediately. It's been so long without a word. I thought you'd run out of tricks and couldn't find anyone, Wang Lei sneered. Huang Su didn't hold back. Old man Wang, when you get to your age, you should learn to step aside. Blocking the path of the younger generation isn't a good look. I'm 31, you brat. Who are you calling an old man? Wang Lei looked ready to explode. I thought they were about to throw hands right there, but Huang Su's face suddenly shifted into a serious expression. Enough talk. We let our guys fight using the 8-level Thunderblade. The winner stays, the loser leaves. Deal, Wang Lei agreed, smoothing down his few remaining hairs. The whole thing was settled in seconds. The speed at which they changed their attitudes made my head spin. What? Huang Su whispered to me. You think we're actually going to fight? We're in the same industry. Old Wang has connections I don't, and vice versa. We might need to work together later. It's all about the money, kid. No point in making enemies. I nodded, finally getting it. It was just business. If you don't get the job this time, you find another one. There was no reason to get hurt or hold a grudge. Peace breeds wealth. Are you done whispering? Wang Lei barked, looking impatient. Let's get on with it. I have things to do. Go on, Huang Su said, giving me a shove. Show them what you've got. The guy Wang Lei brought forward looked young, maybe another high school student. Li Qingran, he said, introducing himself. Chen Yuan, I replied. As soon as we exchanged names, Huang Su shouted, Begin. Falling thunder strike. We both moved at once. Neither of us used our chi or weapons. This was a pure test of physical strength and technique, using our hands like blades to execute the 8-level Thunderblade. Li Qingran was fast. His proficiency was clearly at the perfection stage. His movements were a blur. But I was faster and stronger. Boom. The air in the room felt like it exploded under the pressure of a lightning strike. The sound echoed off the walls. Before Li Qingran could even finish his move, the edge of my hand was resting against his throat. I was less than a millimeter away from his skin. This, the hidden meaning? Li Qingran stammered, his voice turning bitter. So fast, like a flash of lightning. What's the name of that move? Falling thunder strike, I said, pulling my hand back. The name fits, he sighed, bowing his head. I lost. He didn't make excuses. In martial arts, there is no second place. With that one exchange, he knew my understanding of the technique was leagues beyond his own. Impressive, he whispered. Truly impressive. It was the hidden meaning of the 8-level Thunderblade. Wang Lei started clapping frantically, shouting at the top of his lungs. If you didn't know better, you'd think he was the one who had just won. He rushed over to me, his face plastered with a huge, greasy smile. Brother Chen Yuan, he said, leaning in close. Let's exchange contacts. Next time I have a job that pays well, I'll give you a call. We can make a fortune together. He didn't care that he was trying to poach me right in front of Huang Su. He acted like it was the most natural thing in the world. Huang Su just shrugged it off, not bothered at all. I figured having more connections was never a bad thing, so I added Wang Lei. I even added Li Qingran while I was at it. We'll leave you to your business then, Wang Lei said, gesturing for Li Qingran to follow him. Qingran, let's go. Li Qingran looked at me with a serious expression. Chen Yuan, next time, use your full strength. Let's have a real match. No problem, I promised. I watched him leave. Li Qingran was strong, probably at the 9th level of the blood exchange realm. If I had actually used my full power right now, I probably couldn't beat him. But that was only for now. Once I got my hands on those cultivation resources and converted them into lifespan, my growth speed would be terrifying. I had reached this level of power in only 3 days. The old butler had watched our exchange in silence. He disappeared for 2 minutes and then returned with a nod. Mr. Huang Su, the butler said, I've consulted with the big boss. From today on, Mr. Chun Yuan is the young master's teacher. Huang Su patted my shoulder. My job here is done. I'll treat you to dinner in a few days. He had completed his mission of finding someone who could impress the boss, so he made his exit. That left me alone with the butler. I didn't waste time. What about the payment? I asked. If possible, I'd prefer to be paid in martial arts resources. The butler thought for a moment and nodded. The big boss said that someone who can comprehend the hidden meaning of the Thunderblade at your age is a rare genius. He won't be stingy. For 8 lessons a month, you will receive 2 first-grade blood chi pills and 5 bottles of Shinjo brand grade 1 nutrient fluid. I did the math quickly. That was about 290,000 star credits a month. Honestly, I would have been happy with 1 pill and 1 bottle. This was way beyond my expectations. Huang Su was right. The boss was loaded. I'll take the job, I said immediately. Then I scratched my head, feeling a bit awkward. But, can I get the first month's pay in advance? I'm in desperate need of resources for my training. The butler smiled. The big boss anticipated that. It's no problem at all. He knew that a high school martial artist with only 3 months left until the final exams would be hungry for resources. Within 30 seconds, someone brought the items to me. I tucked the 2 pills and 5 bottles of nutrient fluid into my inner pocket. That was 20 years of life right there. Take me to the young master, I said. I'm ready to start. Please follow me, the butler said, leading me to a different floor. The young master can be a bit difficult. Please be patient with him. He opened a door, let me in, and quietly closed it behind me. A boy with short hair was sprawled out on a sofa, looking completely drained of energy. This was Yang Rue, a middle school student. The rumors said he was lonely and hated outsiders. So you're the cheap teacher my old man found, he said without looking up. Look, stay on your side, and I'll stay on mine. Don't bother me. Just sit there until the lesson is over, and you'll still get your money. I was hired to do a job, I countered. I took the pay, so I'm going to teach you. Otherwise, I'd feel like a thief. Yang Rue lifted his head, glaring at me. You think you can force me to learn? Let me guess why you're acting like this, I said, ignoring his attitude. Is it because you're an illegitimate child? Yang Rue bolted upright like a startled cat. His face turned red with rage. You're the illegitimate child. Your whole family is. I only have a mom. I don't have a dad. No dad, I asked, sounding genuinely curious. So you're saying your mom is dead and you're an orphan? Yang Rue froze. He looked at me in disbelief, like he couldn't comprehend that someone would actually say that to his face. You're looking for death. He lunged at me, swinging a fist toward my face. I didn't even blink. I swept his leg, and a second later, he was face down on the floor, groaning in pain. Dealing with a kid like this was effortless. You're weak, I mocked. You can't even put up a fight. So, back to my question. Is your mom dead? Yang Rue scrambled up again, trying to kick me where it hurts. I saw it coming a mile away and tripped him again. Thud. This time, he didn't get up. He just stayed face down, playing dead. I'm not being mean, I said, crouching down to pat his head. I'm just asking, is she dead? Yang Rue's body shook. Your mom is the one who's dead. He muffled into the carpet. Your dad is dead. You're the orphan. Actually, I am an orphan, I replied calmly. That's why I asked. If I weren't one, I wouldn't care. Yang Rue turned his head, his eyes wide with surprise. Wait, you really are? My parents were killed by cultists, I said. I have no relatives. I'm all alone. Luckily, I have an old house, so I don't have to pay rent. My bluntness seemed to strike a chord with him. His tone softened slightly. My mom isn't dead, but they won't let me see her. 3 years ago. Stop, I said, holding up a hand. I just needed to know if she was alive. That's enough. I'm not interested in your family drama. Yang Rue choked on his next words, looking at me like I was the most frustrating person he had ever met. I looked at Yang Rue, his eyes still shimmering with unshed tears. I didn't have time to be his therapist. Complaining to me won't change anything, I told him bluntly. I'm only here because your dad pays me. I'm not going to solve your problems. Only you can do that. I thought about my own situation. If I wanted revenge for my parents, I had to hunt those cultists down myself. I never expected the Star Federation to do the heavy lifting for me. Do you get it yet? I asked. You make it sound so easy, Yang Rue muttered, his voice tight. It's just a cage, I said, gesturing to the room around us. A mental shackle. If you keep pushing forward in your martial arts, one day, those shackles will just snap. Understand? I walked over to the weapon rack and pulled out a training saber. With a sharp flick of my wrist, I tossed it at his feet. The metal clattered against the floor. Get up and practice. Your mom isn't even dead, so stop acting like the world is ending. I'm not the one bullying you, so don't make my life difficult just because I'm a nice guy. If someone messes with you, get strong enough to punch them in the face. Yang Rue gripped the hilt of the saber. He looked hesitant, but he finally stood up. I could see the wheels turning in his head. He was comparing his life to mine. He had money, a roof over his head, and parents who were at least alive. Compared to a penniless orphan like me, he actually had it pretty good. He looked a bit embarrassed for throwing a tantrum earlier. The 8-pole Thunder Saber is all about speed, I explained, shifting into a stance. But speed comes from power, and power starts in the legs. Your foundation is everything. He stopped sulking and actually started listening. We spent the next hour drilling the basics. He was a brat, but he wasn't untalented. When we finished, I wiped the sweat from my forehead. Practice on your own. If you have questions, message me. I'll be back in 3 days. If you've forgotten everything by then, I'm going to beat you. I gave him a small smile. As I turned to leave, Yang Rue called out to me. Hey, about what I said earlier. About you being an orphan. I'm sorry. It's fine, I said, waving a hand over my shoulder without looking back. I didn't care. In a way, every transmigrator is a soul orphan. We're all just trying to grow roots in a universe that doesn't belong to us. As soon as I got home, I didn't waste a second. I pulled out the payment I'd received, 2 blood chi pills and 5 bottles of nutrient solution. I fed them into the system immediately. A warm glow washed over me as the notification popped up. My remaining lifespan jumped by 20 years. I now had 27 years to live. It was time to push my limits. System, I whispered, start the deduction. The memories flooded my mind. In the first year of my simulated training, the Great Dragon stance didn't budge. I worried that 27 years wouldn't be enough to reach the end. I spent every waking moment of the simulation focused on my spine, pushing my limits. By the 10th year, my bones began to pop and crack like thunder. My spine felt like a living dragon waking up from a long slumber. The Great Dragon stance reached perfection. My cultivation surged to the 8th level of the blood exchange realm. But I didn't stop. I pushed for 5 more years, using the perfected stance to boil my blood until it felt like liquid fire. By the 15th year, I hit the 9th level. I had reached the absolute peak of the blood exchange realm. The simulation ended. I opened my eyes, feeling a terrifying amount of power coursing through my veins. My blood chi was twice as strong as it had been just minutes ago. I felt heavy, powerful, and unstoppable. I checked my status. My lifespan had dropped back down to 12 years. I had reached the peak, but I was out of road. To go any further, I needed manuals for the aperture opening realm. And those weren't free. Sacrificing life feels great, I muttered, rubbing my temples. But running out of resources definitely doesn't. I thought about Yang Rue. The kid didn't know how lucky he was to have everything handed to him. With my current strength, I was easily in the top 1,000,000 on the global heavenly ladder rankings. But the top 1,000,000 wasn't enough. To get into a top-tier university, I needed to be in the top 10,000. That meant I had to break into the aperture opening realm. I ran into Li Mingmao at school the next day and mentioned my need for cash. He looked at me like I was an idiot. You do know the rankings payout, right? He asked. I blinked. What? The heavenly ladder, he explained, shaking his head. If you hit the top 1,000,000, the Federation gives you 100,000 star credits. Top 100,000 gets you 500,000. If you make it into the top 10,000 as a university seed, the schools will literally pay you just to sign a contract with them. My jaw nearly hit the floor. I had been stressing about money this whole time, and the solution was right in front of me. You think it's easy? Li Mingmao asked, misinterpreting my silence. Even getting into the top million is a dream for most people. Those who make it are considered elite talents everywhere they go. I just nodded, my mind racing. He thought it was hard. I just thought about how many years of life I could buy with 500,000 credits. It was time to stop holding back. I needed to climb that ladder. The top 10,000 students in the rankings weren't just elites. They were university seeds. To keep them from being poached, schools offered contracts ranging from C rank to S rank. Even a C rank contract offered enough resources to make a middle-class family turn green with envy. I stood there stunned. The solution to all my problems hadn't been far away at all. It was right in front of my eyes. I didn't waste another second. I turned to leave immediately. "Where are you going?" Li Mingmao asked, looking bewildered. "Where else?" I said without looking back. "I'm going to climb the ladder and get paid." I walked straight out of the classroom. Behind me, I could practically feel Li Mingmao's confusion. He was probably wondering if my rank was actually close to the top million, but it didn't make sense to him. The million rank mark was usually crowded with fighters at the 9th level of the blood exchange realm. I was only at the 6th. Even with my mastery of the blade, he likely thought it was impossible. He felt something was off, something ridiculous, but he couldn't quite put his finger on it. As I reached the entrance of the combat room, a figure blocked my path. "Are you Qin Yuan?" the guy asked. I stopped, annoyed. "Who are you? What do you want?" I didn't have time for this. I had money to make, and this guy looked like he was looking for trouble. "You don't know who I am?" Shang Wanji asked, crossing his arms. He looked genuinely surprised. I didn't say a word, but my expression told him everything he needed to know. He stopped playing games. "I'm Shang Wanji," he said bluntly. "Everyone in school knows about the friction between me and Huang Su from high school number 2. I heard you've been getting close to him lately. It makes me uncomfortable." He leaned in, his voice dropping. "This is a warning. Stay out of Huang Su's business. If I see something I don't like, I'll hurt you. You might not know this, but I signed a B-rank contract with the school. Even if I break your bones, the school won't say a word. Consider yourself warned." Before I could even respond, Shang Wanji shoved past my shoulder and walked away like he owned the place. So that was Shang Wanji. Arrogant, bossy, and trying to control who I talked to. I frowned, watching him go, but I quickly pushed him out of my mind. He wasn't important. Making money was. I stepped into the combat hall and was immediately spotted by Lu Qing. He glanced at the door to make sure no one was watching, then hurried over. "Be careful," Lu Qing whispered. "I saw Shang Wanji looking for you. It's probably about Huang Su. You should stay away from that whole situation." "You're a bit late," I replied, my mind already on the virtual pods. "He just found me. Just left, actually." Lu Qing seemed to live in this combat hall. Every time I came here, he was standing in the same spot like a fixed NPC in a video game. "Man, that guy has a nasty temper," Lu Qing warned. "Watch your back. He's a university seed with a B-rank contract. The school protects him." I waved him off. "Don't worry. If he doesn't mess with me, I won't mess with him." I rushed to an empty combat pod in the corner and swiped my student ID. I was itching to get started. "Why is he in such a rush?" Lu Qing muttered, swiping his own ID to enter the platform. I initiated the ladder matchmaking. It only took 10 seconds to find a match. At my current rank, the competition was fierce, and plenty of people were waiting to fight. My first opponent was a guy named Liang Wanzheng, whose rank was slightly lower than mine. I took him out with one clean strike. With the power of the Great Dragon stance backing me, the lethality of my Thunder Flash Slash was terrifying for anyone in the blood exchange realm. I didn't stop. I queued up again immediately. A notification popped up. Match found. My opponent was at the 9th level of the blood exchange realm, ranked 920,000. That was perfect. If I won this, the 100,000 star credits were mine. I wasn't aiming for the top 10,000 yet. Without reaching the aperture opening realm, I didn't have the right to look that high. My goal was simple: hit the top million and take the prize. 100,000 credits might seem small compared to what I could get from tutoring Yang Rui, but the purchasing power was massive. My family's old house was only worth about 300,000. With 100,000, I could buy a blood chi pill and a week's worth of high-grade nutrient solution. That added up to 7 years of life. The countdown finished in seconds. My opponent appeared on the stage. His name was Duo Long, a sword dancer. He was a Blue Star native, but he had the distinct features of the sub-beast race, a rare branch of humanity with animal-like traits. He looked at my stats and smirked. To him, I was just another guy who had recently broken through to the 9th level and thought I was invincible. The 9th level was a massive bottleneck, so the rankings were flooded with people stuck there for years. They were usually seasoned, bitter, and ready to crush any newcomer's confidence. The timer hit 0. The battle started. In that heartbeat, the blood chi in my body erupted like a flood. I poured every ounce of it into my blade. The floor beneath me cracked, leaving deep footprints in the simulated stone. I moved like a bolt of lightning crashing through the dark. Thunder flash slash. I didn't hold back. I never did. Whether my opponent was weak or strong, man or woman, I gave them everything I had. Duo Long's eyes widened. My blood chi was denser than his, even though he had been refining his at the 9th level for 2 years. He barely had time to process the sound of thunder before my blade reached his throat. He managed to jerk his long sword up in a desperate block. Clang! The collision sent his sword flying upward. His hands shook violently, but he managed to keep his grip on the hilt. There's still a chance, he thought, his heart pounding. I haven't lost yet. Sorry, I whispered, closing the gap. You already lost. My blood chi erupted in a sudden burst. I swung my long blade upward in a violent arc. It felt like a hot knife cutting through soft tofu. There was no resistance. The blade sliced clean through Duo Long's body, and a moment later, his avatar shattered into glowing data fragments. He was gone. I let out a long breath. The air leaving my lungs was so hot that it turned into a thick, white mist the second it touched the air. My skin was bright red, glowing like a piece of iron that had been sitting in a forge for hours. It took a full minute for the heat to fade and my skin to return to normal. That one strike took everything I had. Even against a peak 9th level opponent, a single mistake meant death under my blade. I like to play it safe, so I wouldn't go as far as saying I was invincible in my rank yet. But with the pure blood chi from my Great Dragon stance, the essence of the level 8 Thunderblade, and my mastery of the Great Dragon stance, I felt confident. I was definitely in the top tier of the blood exchange realm. It had only been 4 or 5 days since I started this journey. At this speed, I knew I'd be reaching for the stars soon. My eyes were never fixed on this single planet. I wanted to use the path of martial arts to step onto the grand stage of the vast galaxy. Now that I knew the universe was full of life and excitement, I wasn't going to waste my talent, my system, or this second chance at life. The first step was getting into the top 10,000 of the Heaven Ladder to qualify for the big leagues. I checked my new rank. I was now ranked 920,000th. By defeating Duo Long, I had taken his spot. If someone beat me, I'd lose it just as fast. But I promised myself that day would never come. Meanwhile, at Shanxing No. 1 High School, a rhythmic knock sounded at the principal's door. Come in, Principal Fan Yaoxing said. Li Tianming, the dean of students, walked in with a look of disbelief. Principal, one of our students just broke into the top 1 million on the Heaven Ladder. Fan Yaoxing didn't even look up from his desk. Is it my nephew, Fan Tianming? Or maybe Ji Xian from Class 5? Neither, Li Tianming said, shaking his head. It's Chun Yuan, from Class 2. Chun Yuan. Fan Yaoxing finally looked up. He racked his brain, but he didn't remember any top-tier 9th level students by that name. He didn't even remember him being at the 8th level. What's his background? His parents died in a cult riot, Li Tianming explained, reading from a file. He only started standing out 5 days ago. It took him exactly 15 days from the time he registered his account to hit the top million. It seems he was pushed into showing his strength because of bullying by a student named Wang Yao. Wang Yao is actually still in the hospital with broken arms. Fan Yaoxing sighed, a hint of annoyance in his voice. Every time the ladder rankings are about to settle, these hidden gems start showing up. Do they think they're in a novel? Always trying to play the pig to eat the tiger. Aren't they afraid of actually becoming the pig? Every year, a bunch of quiet students suddenly rocketed up the rankings right before the deadline. It was the same dramatic story every time, and the principal was tired of hearing it. Let them have their fun, Li Tianming said dismissively. If they like acting weak and getting bullied, that's on them. Anyway, what resources should I approve for him? Fan Yaoxing didn't hesitate. For a student with this much potential, the Federation's rewards weren't enough. The school had to show its support now. If they waited until he was a superstar, it would be too late to earn his loyalty. Other schools would snatch him up in a heartbeat. Li Tianming held up a finger. One heart-calming pill. A heart-calming pill. Fan Yaoxing mused. It was a supplement used to help break through to the aperture opening realm, worth about 100,000 credits. It was perfect for a 9th-level student. But then he paused. Wait, kids like him usually hide a secret or two. There's a chance he's already broken through. Let's make it an aperture-nurturing pill instead. It works whether he's breaking through or just strengthening his existing apertures. That's 150,000 credits, Li Tianming smiled. You're really going all out, principal. If these kids were just normal, I wouldn't have to work this hard, Fan Yaoxing grumbled, rubbing his bald head. He missed the days when he had a full head of hair. I just hope this Chen Yuan kid is already at the aperture realm. I don't want my effort to go to waste. Across town at number 2 high school, a student named Huang Su was scrolling through messages when he froze. Chen Yuan hit the top million? Rank 920,000? That's 60,000 spots higher than me. He leaned back, stunned. Then he laughed. I guess it makes sense. If he's already mastered Blade Intent, there was no way he was actually just at the 6th level of blood exchange. That kid is a deep one. He made a mental note to finish his work so he could treat Chen Yuan to the meal he promised. Huang Su prided himself on keeping his word. Back in the combat room, my terminal chimed. Since the platform was run directly by the Star Federation, the rewards for hitting the top million were issued instantly. No paperwork, no waiting. 10,000 credits were now sitting in my account. I decided not to queue for another match. I was strong for a 9th-level student, but the top 100,000 spots were crawling with Aperture Realm fighters. Pushing further would be a waste of time until I leveled up. I needed to break through, and I needed to do it now. I climbed out of the gaming pod and saw Lu Qing and Li Mingmao waiting for me. Lord Chen Yuan, the man of mystery, Lu Qing said in a teasing tone. Mind telling us your new rank? You don't have to if you don't want to, Li Mingmao added, though I could see the curiosity in his eyes. I didn't see any reason to lie. I just hit 920,000, I told them. Just picked up my 10,000 credit bonus. I wasn't worried about hiding my strength anymore. My power was growing so fast that by the time anyone figured out how strong I was today, I'd already be twice as strong tomorrow. Who could have guessed how far I'd come in just a few days? 5 days ago, I was a nobody. I was the kid Wang Yao cornered in the bathroom, shaking me down for blood pills while I was too scared to fight back. Now, everything had changed. Lu Qing looked at Li Mingmao and laughed. I told you that you were overthinking it. There's no way He stopped mid-sentence. His head whipped toward me so fast I heard his neck crack. He stared at me like I was a freak of nature, his mouth hanging open. Wait, what? 920,000? Are you serious? Li Mingmao was much calmer, but I could see his hands trembling slightly. 9th level of blood exchange? He whispered. A genuine 9th level? Genuine, I confirmed. The essence of the Baji Thunderblade? Yeah. And the Great Dragon Stance. Perfected, I said. There's nothing left to learn from it. Hearing it directly from my mouth seemed to crush Li Mingmao's spirit. He went quiet, likely realizing that the gap between us wasn't just wide, it was a canyon. I knew what he was thinking. Sometimes, the difference between two people is greater than the difference between a human and a dog. Honestly, I couldn't blame him for being skeptical. My progress was insane. If I told him I reached the Aperture Realm in a few days, he probably wouldn't even be surprised anymore. You get used to the impossible when it happens often enough. Damn it, Lu Qing shouted, breaking the tension. 10,000 credits. You're rich. You're buying us the biggest meal in the city. Lu Qing was an optimist. Even though he felt a bit left behind, he was genuinely happy for me. He felt like his eye for talent had finally paid off. His family couldn't nag him about hanging out with losers anymore. He'd managed to befriend a martial arts genius. We didn't go to a fancy restaurant, though. Lu Qing suggested the school cafeteria's specialty stir-fry instead. The whole meal only cost me 180 credits. As we walked out of the cafeteria, we ran into the director of instruction, Li Tianming. He acted surprisingly warm, asking how my studies were going. Then, he handed me a small box. The school wants to support its best talents, he said with a smile. Keep up the hard work. Inside was a nourishing aperture pill. My breath hitched. This single pill had a market value of 150,000 credits. It was essential for breaking into the aperture realm and strengthening the internal nodes. These things were strictly controlled by the Star Federation. Even a school like ours only got a tiny quota every year. Lu Qing looked at the pill with wide eyes. He wasn't jealous, just stunned. 15,000 credits right there in your hand, he muttered. I rubbed my chin, looking at the smooth casing of the pill. I didn't care about its medicinal effects. I didn't need pills to cultivate. I only cared about one thing. How much life was this worth? Once I parted ways with the guys, I didn't wait. I pulled up my system interface and converted the pill immediately. The screen flickered. My status updated. Name: Shin Yuan. Martial Arts. Blood Exchange Level 9. Lifespan: 27 years. The pill had given me 15 years of life. That was 10,000 credits per year, which was actually better value than the blood pills. The problem was that these were rare. You couldn't just walk into a store and buy 100 of them, even if you had the money. 27 years felt better than 5, but it still wasn't enough. I wasn't sure if 27 years would be enough to break through to the next realm. I headed straight for the library. It was late, and the building was mostly empty. Most students took years to master a single technique, so they didn't visit often. I skipped the administrator this time and went straight to the self-service terminals. With my new rank, I had access to Aperture Realm manuals. In this world, the human body has 361 apertures. They are like hidden treasure chests, sealed tight from birth. To reach the Aperture Realm, you have to use your blood energy to smash those seals open. Once open, your body begins to resonate with the energy of the universe. It's not just about strength. Opening apertures gives your attacks special attributes, almost like magic. The type of attribute depends entirely on the cultivation manual you choose. I scrolled through the options. I saw the Yuan CI respiration technique. It was created by the Thunder Brilliance martial god. It cost exactly 10,000 credits, all the prize money I had left. I didn't hesitate. I bought it. But as I kept scrolling, something else caught my eye. It was a manual with no grade level. That was strange. Usually, everything was ranked strictly. I clicked on it and saw a note at the very beginning. It was written by the Dragon Elephant martial god. Hun Yuan Dragon Elephant True Art, I whispered. The notes were blunt. The martial god wrote that he had spent his entire life looking for the perfect technique. He created this one with 13 levels. It had no bottlenecks. Anyone could practice it. But there was a catch. Level 1 took 3 years. Level 2 took 10. Level 3 took 30. To reach level 4, you needed 100 years of dedicated practice. The Dragon Elephant martial god himself, a man who had lived for thousands of years, had only reached the 9th level. He called it an evil art for anyone without an infinite lifespan. It was a trap for the gifted and a death sentence for the normal. He estimated that level 13 would grant the power of 10 dragons and 10 elephants, a strength that could likely crush a planet. But he lamented that he would never see it. My heart hammered against my ribs. For anyone else, this was a joke, a waste of time. But for me, if I could trade for enough life, the time requirement didn't matter. I didn't care if it took 1,000 years. I just needed to survive long enough to pay the price. I stared at the description of the 10 dragons and 10 elephants. The Dragon Elephant martial god only reached level 9, and he was already one of the strongest beings in existence. If I reached level 13, I wouldn't just be a martial artist. I would be a god. The dragon and the elephant were legendary beasts known for their raw, world-shaking power. My talent might have been mediocre, trash, even, but I had something better than talent. I had time. If the technique was hard to learn, I didn't care. If it required decades of slow, steady progress, it didn't matter. Was 10,000 years enough? If not, I'd spend 100,000. 1,000,000. As long as I had the martial resources to fuel the system, my lifespan was an infinite currency. I'd burn my life away until I reached the 13th level. But then I saw the price tag. I nearly choked. The first level of the Hun Yuan Dragon Elephant True Art cost 200,000 star credits. That was just the start. Worse, my school only had the manual for the first level. To get the other 12, I'd have to find another way. Maybe the military or a top-tier university. Those places held the real secrets of the Star Federation. This art was made for me, I muttered. I was itching to try it, but my bank account was empty. I needed money. Fast. I left the library and headed to my side job. At the Huan apartment complex, Yang Rui was busy showing me his progress. He swung his long blade, performing the 8 Extremes Thunderblade technique. He stumbled here and there, but he finished the set. He'd clearly been practicing hard over the last 3 days. He wasn't lazy, but his form was a mess. Your waist is too stiff, I said. Technically, Yang Rui was more talented than me. His natural grasp of the blade and his blood-refining speed were superior. But I had the essence of the technique. Correcting him was like a college student solving a primary school math problem. It was effortless. Try it like this, I told him. Yang Rui looked serious. He followed my instructions, adjusting his stance. Don't try to copy me exactly, I added. Find the rhythm that fits you. That's how you reach the essence. Martial arts are like art. 1,000 people can look at the same painting and see 1,000 different things. I had mastered the Thunderbolt Speed Slash, but Yang Rui might develop something entirely different. As a martial artist grows stronger, they have to innovate. Only your own path truly fits you. As he practiced, Yang Rui wiped sweat from his forehead. Teacher, what's your rank on the virtual ladder now? 920,000, I replied. I didn't see a reason to lie. He didn't snap back at me this time. He actually called me teacher with a bit of respect. My dad said if I get into a good university, he can bring my mom back home. Do you think I can make it? I took a sip of water, my expression blank. I'll definitely make it. As for you? Who knows? Yang Rui glared at me. What kind of teacher crushes a student's confidence like that? I know the rules. You need to be in the top 10,000 just to qualify for the university trials. You're at 900,000. You're nowhere close. It'll be easy, I said, peeling an orange. Keep dreaming, he shouted. He got frustrated and lunged at me. I didn't even look up. I stuck my foot out, and, thud, he was face down on the floor again. Stop worrying about the future, I said. Focus on your blade. Practice. After the lesson, I didn't go home. I headed to the city center and found a restaurant called Hshuan. It was a 3-story place, and my target was private room 201. Huangsu was already there, waving me over. You finally made it, he grinned. How's the rich kid? Is he giving you a hard time? He's all right, I said, tossing my jacket onto a chair. He works hard. Well, you're in for a treat today. Their earth dragon meat is top tier. Try not to swallow your tongue. Huangsu had messaged me 3 days ago, promising a surprise. I didn't care about surprises. I was just hungry. Within minutes, 4 dishes and a soup were placed on the table. The aroma was incredible. Every dish featured earth dragon meat. Go on, try it, Huangsu urged. I didn't hesitate. I took a bite and started chewing. The flavor was rich, but then I felt it, a spark. As the meat hit my stomach, a wave of warmth spread through my body. It felt like a small furnace had been lit in my gut. My blood began to circulate faster, automatically digesting the energy. My blood vitality was actually increasing. It wasn't a huge jump, but it was noticeable. See, Huangsu laughed at my shocked face. Earth dragon meat boosts blood circulation. If an ordinary person eats this regularly, they can reach the 2nd level of the blood exchange realm without even trying. It's medicinal food. This one meal cost me 10,000 star credits. As soon as he said the price, I stopped talking and started shoveling food into my mouth. If it was that expensive, I wasn't leaving a single scrap. Huangsu realized his mistake and scrambled to grab his chopsticks before I finished everything. 5 minutes later, the plates were licked clean. I leaned back, patting my warm stomach. Man, your chopsticks were moving so fast they left after images. Huangsu complained, still half hungry. Was that part of the 8 Extremes Thunderblade essence too? When you reach my level, I lied through my teeth. Every movement is part of the art. Eating, walking, everything. Huangsu rolled his eyes. He knew I was full of it. Anyway, I said, changing the subject. What's this surprise you mentioned? If I just tell you, it's not a surprise, he said with a mysterious smirk. But hey, I heard your ladder rank broke into the top 1,000,000. Congrats. I blinked. How do you know that? I wasn't surprised the school knew, but Huangsu? I even know the school gave you a cloud sheath pill, he said, tilting his head proudly. In my line of work, if you don't have ears everywhere, you starve. I know the names of every student in the top high schools. Information is power, my friend. I had to hand it to him. I couldn't do anything but give Huang Su a silent thumbs up. The guy was a walking encyclopedia of secrets. The surprise, Huang Su said, his voice dropping an octave, is a trip to the Shanxing black market. The market was tucked away in the outskirts of the city, buried deep underground. We had to pass through 3 separate identity checkpoints before we were finally allowed into a massive subterranean garage. Unlike a typical quiet parking lot, this place was teeming with life. Stalls were crammed into every available corner, but the goods for sale weren't exactly ordinary. I saw low-grade nutrient solutions, pills from brands I'd never heard of, and even blood chi pills priced at 20,000 star credits. My heart skipped a beat. On the open market, those went for 70,000. The price difference was terrifying. Watch your step, Huang Su warned, leaning closer. The black market is crawling with fakes. If a newcomer doesn't have the eye for it, they get scammed instantly. He didn't need to tell me twice. I didn't trust a 20,000 credit pill for a second. The logic just didn't hold up. The raw manufacturing cost of a grade 1 blood chi pill was more than 20,000. Nobody runs a business at a loss. More importantly, as I looked at the pill, I felt nothing. My system couldn't detect any energy to convert. It was a blatant fake. Be careful if you ever come here alone, Huang Su continued as we walked. It's a melting pot of the worst kinds of people. Scammers, rebels, aliens, even Cthulhu-style cultists hang out here. Even cultists? I narrowed my eyes. And the authorities just let them stay? Better to have them all in one hole than scattered across the city, Huang Su whispered. There are plenty of undercover enforcers disguised as shoppers. If something goes wrong, they lock the place down fast. But don't worry too much. The black market has its own rules. As long as you don't cause trouble, you're fine. At worst, you'll lose some money. Just consider it tuition for your education. Huang Su laughed, recalling how much he'd been scammed during his first visit. He eventually led me to a shop with a goat's head hanging over the entrance. Most vendors here were just individuals with blankets on the floor, so a shop with an actual storefront meant the owner had real influence. We stepped inside, but the room looked empty. Old Wu, I brought a customer. A rich one, Huang Su shouted toward the ceiling. A sudden rustle came from above. A man with a pair of furry cat ears flipped gracefully from the rafters, landing silently on his feet. A catkin. This was my first time seeing a demi-human in person. They weren't common on our planet, though I'd heard many of them became famous interstellar streamers. Unfortunately, our planet only had a local area network, so I'd never actually seen one of their broadcasts. Huang Su, I told you not to bring strangers here, Old Wu said, his face cold. The enforcement team is a pain to deal with. But when his eyes landed on me, his expression softened slightly. He gave a sharp nod. This kid, he's stronger than you. That's why I brought him, Huang Su said, grabbing a stool and making himself at home. Maybe he'll be your next big client. Chen Yuan, meet Old Wu. If you need medicine or repair resources, he's your man. His prices beat the market every time. Old Wu stared at me for a moment. The stance you're practicing, is it the Great Dragon stance? I stiffened. I didn't expect him to see through me with a single glance. Was this guy a hidden master? Huang Su saw my face and laughed. Don't overthink it. Old Wu has never practiced martial arts a day in his life. He just sees a lot of people. Plus, being a catkin, his senses are way sharper than a human's. He fooled me too when we first met. Old Wu ignored him. The Great Dragon stance, it builds incredible foundation, but it's a massive time sink. Very few people choose it these days. But the blood chi it produces, the scent is much richer than other styles. Like a fine, aged wine. He looked at me with a strange glint in his eyes. Kid, interested in selling some blood? I'll pay top dollar. 10,000 credits for 100 milliliters. What do you say? Selling blood. I shook my head immediately. A martial artist's blood wasn't just liquid, it was the carrier of their power. Losing too much blood could lead to a permanent depletion of blood chi. In severe cases, your realm could even drop. Falling from the 9th level of blood exchange back to the 7th wasn't unheard of. Old Wu looked disappointed. I guess you aren't desperate enough for money yet. Back in the day, Huang Su used to come here and sell his blood every few weeks. I turned to Huang Su, shocked. You were that broke? Those are memories I'd rather forget. Huang Su shrugged, offering no further explanation. If you don't mind me asking, I said, looking at Old Wu. What do you even do with the blood? You aren't drinking it, are you? The two of them froze, looked at each other, and then burst into laughter. Drinking it? Huang Su wheezed. Where do you get these ideas? It's for research. And some medicines need martial artist blood as a catalyst. Even blood chi pills use it. We aren't cultists, kid. Wait, I caught the keyword. You sell blood chi pills here? Isn't that a restricted substance? Old Wu explained patiently. I don't just sell them, I make them. It's not actually that difficult. The Federation originally got the recipe from the people, tweaked it, and then monopolized it because the profit margins are insane. They even banned private production. But the Federation is too big to police every corner, Huang Su added. People brew them in secret and sell them here. As long as you don't shout it from the rooftops, the authorities look the other way. Anyway, if you need pills, come to Old Wu. The market price is 70,000, but he sells them for 60. Bulk orders get a discount, and the quality is just as good as the government stuff. 60,000. Saving 10,000 credits per pill was a huge deal. Huang Su really was helping me out. I'll definitely be coming back, I nodded. Then I looked Huang Su in the eye. But let's get to the point. You didn't bring me here just for a tour. What's the real reason? I didn't believe for a second that our brief acquaintance earned me this kind of VIP treatment. In this world, nobody gives you something for nothing. Huang Su's smile faded. He looked at Old Wu, who gave a slow nod. All right, Huang Su said, his voice serious. No more games. You need money, right? We have a job, if you're willing to take the risk. How dangerous? I asked. I won't lie to you, Huang Su said. It's not like teaching a kid some moves. There is a real risk of death. Old Wu found a live, three-headed horse in the Black Mountains, but he doesn't have the strength to capture it himself. He's commissioning us to get it. They said the trees in the Black Mountains were black because of a great war. Eons ago, blood from a cosmic beast dripped onto the land, warping the ecology forever. The creatures living there mutated into powerful, violent entities known as exotic beasts. The red-toothed tiger was the most common threat, a beast strong enough to rival a human master in the opening aperture realm. The Federation didn't wipe them out. Instead, they treated the mountains like a garden, harvesting the beasts once a year like crops to extract their value. They didn't stop civilians from entering, either. Most people were just too terrified to try. A three-headed python? I asked, skepticism creeping into my voice. Even a standard opening aperture expert would run from one of those. You think the three of us can take it? I wanted the money, but I wasn't suicidal. This wasn't a virtual platform. If I died here, there was no respawn. I'm not an idiot, Old Wu replied, his eyes narrowing. I found out the python is about to lay eggs. Once she's done, she'll be in a severely weakened state. The two of you working together will be more than enough. I thought about it. If the intel was solid, it was doable. What's the payout? I only want the eggs, Old Wu said. I'll pay you and Huang Su 300,000 credits each for the trouble. Plus, you can keep the python's hide, meat, blood, and bones. The black market will pay at least 400,000 for those materials. Total, you're looking at 500,000 credits. He paused, leaning forward. But let's be clear. I only provide the intel. You two are the ones doing the fighting. Deal, I said without a second thought. 500,000 credits was worth the risk. Besides, I needed to get used to the Black Mountains. If I could learn to hunt these beasts alone, I'd have a permanent source of income. More importantly, I needed real combat experience. No matter how realistic the virtual platform was, it was still a simulation. The university entrance exams required real-world fighting. There's a saying, a battle to the death is worth 10 years of hard training. No martial god was ever born in a simulator. We go in 1 week, Old Wu decided. Based on my experience, that's when she'll lay the eggs. Huang Su nodded and looked at me. Prepare yourself. Bring 3 days of supplies, and don't forget your weapons. I wasn't going to spend that week sitting around. I went straight to the bank. Using my rank as 920,000th on the global ladder and my family's old house as collateral, I secured a loan of 300,000 credits. I didn't care about the debt. I just needed the capital now. I took that money back to Old Wu and bought 5 blood-chi pills for 280,000 credits. What are you doing with 5 of these? Old Wu asked, surprised. Eating them like candy? We're heading into the mountains soon. I lied smoothly. I just want to boost my strength a bit so I don't die. Don't overthink it, he said, trying to reassure me. If it were a suicide mission, I wouldn't go near it. I just smiled and left. 5 pills meant 25 years of life. The moment I got home, I converted them. My lifespan jumped to 52 years. Now, it was time to burn it. System, break through to the opening aperture realm. Year 1. You follow the breathing techniques to force open your apertures. You fail. Your meridians are damaged. You spend the next 4 years recovering. Year 5. You try again. Fail. More damage. More recovery. Year 12. Your body is healed. You wait until your mental state is perfect before the 3rd attempt. You fail again. The damage is severe. You realize you are just an ordinary man with no natural talent. But the 3 failures have etched the process into your soul. Year 30. You have studied every mistake. You make your final move. This time, there is no resistance. Your will breaks through the barrier. Simulation complete. Opening aperture realm achieved. In an instant, my senses shifted. The world looked and sounded the same, but I could feel something new. Cosmic energy. It was everywhere, vibrating through the air. Only those in the opening aperture realm could perceive it. My strength, speed, and reflexes didn't just improve, they evolved. This was a leap in life level. This was why people risked everything for the martial path. I checked my status. Name, Chen Yuan. Realm, opening aperture. Lifespan, 42 years. Wait, I had 52 years before the simulation. I spent 30 years. I should have had 22 left. Why was it 42? Then it hit me. The breakthrough itself had extended my natural life by 20 years. It was a jackpot I hadn't expected. A few days later, I arrived at the Huan district for my tutoring session. As I stepped through the gate, I froze. The atmosphere was heavy. I could feel eyes on me. Several powerful experts were hidden in the shadows, watching my every move. If I were still in the blood exchange realm, I never would have noticed them. The old butler walked out to meet me. Mr. Chen Yuan, the big boss is back. He wants to see you. The big boss, Lin Howren's father. A high-ranking military official. The people watching me were clearly his security detail. Lead the way, I said. The butler took me to the ground floor and gestured for me to enter a room alone. When I saw the big boss, I was stunned by how ordinary he looked. He had no intimidating aura, no scars, no military posture. He looked like a common man you'd pass on the street. You must be Chen Yuan, he said, his voice warm and steady. Please sit. Don't be formal. I didn't hesitate. I pulled out a chair and sat across from him at the tea table. Why did you want to see me? No reason, he said, pouring me a cup of tea. I just wanted to meet my son's teacher. He looked at me, his eyes unreadable. I think you're qualified enough to teach him. I took a sip of the tea. It tasted like nothing special, but I knew better than to trust appearances. I knew the tea the big boss poured for me had to be incredibly rare and expensive, but I didn't know the first thing about tea culture. I couldn't think of a single poetic compliment. In the end, I just managed to squeeze out 2 words. It's good, I said. The big boss chuckled. You're being modest. Many teachers have tried to instruct Yang Rui, but very few have managed to earn his respect. He leaned back, his expression softening. I owe my son a lot. As long as he's happy, I don't really care about his actual strength. That's why I want to sign a long-term agreement with you. I want you to continue teaching him. If you agree, I'll quintuple your current salary, with annual raises to follow. I won't let you lose out. To his surprise, I didn't even stop to think. I refused immediately. My reason was blunt, bordering on arrogant. I'm sorry, I said. The university entrance exams are coming up. After that, I likely won't be staying on Blue Star. I won't be able to teach him anymore. My message was simple. I was going to pass those exams. Failure wasn't even a consideration. The big boss didn't laugh or try to persuade me. He simply nodded. Then we'll leave it at that. If you change your mind, tell the butler. My offer stands. I didn't want to overstay my welcome. If there's nothing else, I'll go find Yang Rue. We have a lot to cover today. As I walked out, the big boss stared at my empty teacup, motionless, as if he were in a trance. The butler stepped in to clear the table. Sir, the butler whispered, what do you think of Mr. Chen Yuan? The big boss spoke slowly, weighing every word. Unrestrained. He is the type of man who will either achieve greatness or cause a massive storm. He won't settle for anything in between. Outside, I noticed the heavy feeling of being watched had vanished. I didn't dwell on it and headed straight to Yang Rue's room. I just met your father, I said as I pushed the door open. Yang Rue's face went pale. He looked nervous. He didn't do anything to you, did he? I'll go talk to him. I let out a small smile. Did you think he was trying to fire me because I'm not good enough? Well, yeah, Yang Rue admitted, looking relieved. My calm demeanor told him everything he needed to know. He actually wanted to extend my contract for a few more years, I explained. But I turned him down. Yang Rue was baffled. Why? My family isn't short on cash. Because university isn't on Blue Star, I said. Once I pass, I won't have time for you. Yang Rue snorted, his skepticism written all over his face. Rank 92 and you're dreaming of university? Why not just keep teaching me? You'd probably make enough to afford a wife that way. I didn't argue. I just reached out and ruffled his hair. You have the talent, the resources, and the connections. You have a real shot at it. Work hard. Maybe one day you'll be my junior at school. Now, show me your 8-trigram Thunderblade. Let's see if you've been slacking. Later that night, I sat cross-legged on my bed, my breathing deep and steady. I was running the atom respiration technique, trying to capture the stray cosmic energy floating in the air. Different techniques require different types of energy. The atom method focuses on lightning, electricity, and magnetism. There are 361 acupuncture points in the human body, but they are naturally blocked. You have to use cosmic energy to slowly break through them. Once a point opens, it resonates with the blood and chi. It's like unlocking a divine treasury. Opening these points allows your body to form a small cycle, a self-sustaining loop. This stage, blood exchange, point opening, and body refinement, is known as the 5 paths of the small golden body. Once you achieve it, you can survive in the vacuum of space for 3 hours. I didn't use the system to cheat this time. I wanted to feel how hard the process actually was. By morning, I was frustrated. My progress was slower than a snail climbing a tree. At this rate, opening a single point would take a year or two. Doing all 361? Forget it. My martial arts talent was mediocre at best, just average for a citizen of Blue Star. Compared to the geniuses on the martial path, I was nothing. But I didn't let it get me down. People like Lu Qing and Li Mingmao had way more talent than me, and they were still struggling in the early stages of blood exchange. Out of 10 billion people on this planet, maybe 1 in 10,000 could even walk this path. It's a hard road, but that's why it isn't crowded. I realized the 8-trigram Thunderblade was reaching its limit. It was a good starter move, but unless I sacrificed more years to evolve it into a high-tier art, it would soon be useless. I had 42 years of life left. I wasn't in a rush to spend them unless I hit a wall or a life-threatening situation. My mind was set on the great dragon stance I'd seen before. Even a martial god would struggle to master all 13 levels of that technique. If I could push that to the limit, I'd have the strength of 10 dragons and 10 elephants. Who could stop me then? I just needed to kill those 3 three-armed apes. Once I had the money, I'd buy the first volume of the Great Dragon Stance. I wanted to see exactly how difficult it really was. When the day of the hunt arrived, I packed 3 days' worth of food and water. I gripped my standard-issue long blade, a weapon that had cost me almost every cent I had left. The virtual platform was great for practice, but you couldn't become a martial god in a simulation. You needed real life-and-death combat to break your limits. I met Huang Su and Old Wu at the rendezvous point. A rugged, reinforced off-road vehicle was waiting. Get in, Huang Su shouted. Old Wu was the navigator and intel guy. He didn't fight, but he knew everything else. I tossed my bag in and sat down, only to see Huang Su looking like he was bracing for a plane crash. He was gripping the handrails so hard his knuckles were white. What the? Before I could finish, a massive force slammed me back into my seat. For streaks of blue flame erupted from the exhaust like mini volcanoes. The acceleration was insane. The world outside the window blurred into a single streak of color. This is the beauty of the internal combustion engine, Old Wu yelled from the driver's seat. His ears were twitching, and he looked absolutely manic. Suddenly, the car hit a bump and went airborne. We slammed back down with a bone-jarring thud. My head hit the roof hard. I honestly thought the car was going to shake itself to pieces. Huangsu, I yelled over the engine roar. Why didn't you warn me? This isn't a car, it's a death trap. The driving was borderline illegal. I quickly mimicked Huangsu, bracing my arms and legs against the frame to lock myself into the seat. The road was a nightmare, but thanks to my new martial artist physique, I eventually adapted to the bone-jarring vibration. We reached the foot of Black Mountain sooner than expected. The moment Old Wu stepped out of the car, his manic energy vanished. He became calm and professional, making me wonder if his previous excitement was just a hallucination. That wasn't even fast, Old Wu said with a smirk. Wait until you martial artists get your hands on mechs. You'll break the sound barrier like it's nothing. Sadly, I'll never get to experience that in my lifetime. Old Wu looked only about 10 years older than us, but he spoke like a weary old man. He was talking about the Star Federation's mechs, monstrous machines that no ordinary human could pilot because the G-force would crush their bones. Only a martial artist's body could handle the strain, doubling their combat power instantly. But for someone like me, mechs were a distant dream. I wouldn't even touch a flight simulator until university. Old Wu, the three-headed python, could lay its eggs at any moment, Huangsu said, cutting to the chase. Lead us to the spot. Once it's done, Qin Yuan and I will move in. We knew the eggs were coming soon, but we didn't have an exact time. We needed to watch and wait. Those pythons are sensitive, I noted. If we get too close, we'll spook it and ruin the hunt. I didn't bring you guys out here to fail, Old Wu replied. He reached into his massive backpack and pulled out 3 pairs of high-tech goggles. Biological detectors. Day or night. These will let us track the python from a distance. The battery life is trash, but they'll get the job done. Did you build these yourself? I asked, putting them on. I linked the goggles to my personal terminal, and the world transformed. It was like seeing a new dimension. Solid objects like rocks faded into the background. Trees glowed with a faint green light. Birds hidden in the branches showed up as blue dots. Huangsu and Old Wu, standing right next to me, were bright yellow heat signatures. Just a little hobby, Old Wu said modestly. If you guys spent less time punching things and more time studying, you could make them too. Huangsu's expression turned serious. Aside from the beasts, our biggest threat is other hunters. Don't show off your wealth. Never underestimate how greedy people can get. Black Mountain was dangerous, but it was also a gold mine. The people who hunted here were called beast hunters. They weren't powerful martial artists, but they were experienced, ruthless, and armed with high-caliber firearms. If a blood exchange master got careless, a sniper bullet could still end their life. I nodded. I wasn't stupid. I watched Old Wu and Huangsu closely, trying to soak up their experience for my own future hunts. Old Wu pulled out a custom large-bore shotgun, while Huangsu and I gripped our blades. If something goes sideways, don't worry about me, Old Wu warned. I'm not a fighter, but I have enough tricks to stay alive. Old Wu took the lead, I took the middle, and Huangsu brought up the rear. We plunged into the forest. Black Mountain wasn't just one peak, it was the edge of a massive mountain range. From a distance, it looked dead, a charred, black landscape with no greenery. But once we were inside, the air was thick with the sounds of hidden creatures. It was a complete, deadly ecosystem. Old Wu tricked me into coming here the first time, Huangsu whispered, trying to lighten the mood. I was a freshman in high school and desperate for money. I did the killing, he did the processing and selling. We made a killing. Eventually, I realized being a middleman was easier money, so I stopped coming out as much. I felt some of the tension leave my shoulders. Being on high alert was draining my energy fast. You were so cute back then, Old Wu called back from the front. You listened to everything I said. Now you're just a slippery old fox. No fun at all. Old Wu avoided the established trails. They were easier to walk, but too predictable. Instead, he hacked a path through the dense, waist-high weeds with a rusted machete. So why are you so desperate for money? I asked Huangsu. You've been doing this for years. Shouldn't you have enough for your training? Huang Su didn't dodge the question this time. He shrugged. Family trouble. My mom needs a fortune every month just to stay alive. I didn't have a choice. I had to grind. He smiled, though it didn't reach his eyes. It's better now that I'm stronger. Back when I started, I was borrowing money from everyone, jumping at any job that paid. I took a lot of losses back then. That's rough, I said, but at least you've made it through the worst of it. Huang Su glanced at me. You're calling me tragic? Look at you. Your parents are gone, and you're out here risking your neck alone just to get resources. You've got it way worse than I do. I realized he was right. From an outsider's perspective, I was a desperate orphan with nothing. As a transmigrator, I hadn't really felt the weight of it until now. Suddenly, a black snake with a triangular head launched itself from the brush. My hand blurred. I caught it by the neck and crushed its skull in one motion. Is this worth anything? I asked, holding up the limp body. Old Wu glanced back. Maybe some old guy would want it for snake wine, but it has no medicinal value. I won't buy it. I tossed the carcass into a tree. The mountain was crawling with venomous snakes, but they weren't a threat to a martial artist. My natural resistance to toxins was high enough that their venom was like a bee sting. Even the swarms of mutated mosquitoes were useless. A single pulse of my blood energy sent them falling to the ground in heaps. This was the gap between us and normal humans. Old Wu, how much longer? Huang Su asked for the third time. Almost there. You said that 3 hours ago. Huang Su snapped. It wasn't Old Wu's fault. Hacking a new path through the wilderness was slow work. But then, Old Wu suddenly froze. He raised a hand, signaling us to stop. We immediately pulled down our detectors. The world shifted into thermal layers. Through the thick brush, a massive, elongated signal appeared. It was a deep, angry orange. The three-headed python. It was 18 meters long, with 3 distinct heads. It could swallow a man whole and snap a tree trunk with a flick of its tail. For a normal person, this was a death sentence. Even its scales were designed to absorb the kinetic energy of bullets. We had found our target. I couldn't even see the white dots on the heat signatures anymore. This was a mutant beast, a creature that had survived layer upon layer of evolution and radiation. They were powerful, dangerous, and incredibly valuable. That's why hunters risked their lives to crawl through the Black Mountains. We were about 80 meters away from the three-headed python. As long as we didn't make a scene, it wouldn't notice us. It looked like it hadn't started laying its eggs yet. According to the plan, I'll spread out and keep watch, Old Wu whispered. I'll take the night shift. You two take turns in the morning. He disappeared into the brush to the left. We had agreed on this earlier. Old Wu didn't have the raw martial strength we did, so he relied on his gadgets and traps. Huang Su and I were the ones who would actually deliver the killing blow. I guess we wait, Huang Su said, taking a long swig from a water bottle. I'll watch first. You get some rest. I'll wake you when it's time. I ate a quick snack and closed my eyes. I didn't actually sleep. I stayed in a light trance, alert to every rustle of leaves or snap of a twig. I didn't distrust Huang Su or Old Wu, but I preferred to keep my life in my own hands. We rotated like that for 2 days. The python was close to nesting, so it barely moved. It was a test of patience. Huang Su looked at me with a hint of surprise. He told me later he was impressed I hadn't shown a flicker of agitation. He had years of experience, but this was my first time in the mountains. I guess I was just a natural-born hunter. On the second evening, the sky turned a bruised purple as the sun dipped low. I felt a sudden shift in the air. Huang Su felt it too. It's starting, Huang Su whispered. Wait, let it finish. That's when it'll be at its weakest. Go all out, I reminded him. 1 hit, 1 kill. Old Wu's voice crackled through our earpieces. Stay stealthy. Don't make too much noise. We don't want to attract other hunters. The process took hours. According to Old Wu, mutant pythons can take anywhere from 5 to 8 hours to finish laying. We waited in the dead silence of the early morning under a pale crescent moon. Almost there. Get ready, I said. In my thermal vision, the bright orange glow of the python began to dim. Its life signs were dropping. Then, a smaller, pale yellow cluster appeared beside it, the eggs. Move, Old Wu hissed. We didn't need the prompt. Huang Su and I exploded from our cover. Thunderbolt slash. 9-star chain. We didn't hold back. We both unleashed our full power instantly. As we moved, I felt a surge of energy from Huang Su that matched my own. My eyes widened. He was in the aperture opening realm too. We covered 80 meters in a heartbeat. I was a bolt of lightning. He was a falling meteor. We left 2 white streaks in the humid night air. The python only had time to raise one of its heads and hiss before we were on it. A wet, tearing sound echoed through the clearing, like heavy silk being ripped apart. 2 of the snake's heads flew into the air, crashing into the dirt and kicking up clouds of dust. I didn't stop. I planted my feet, twisted my torso, and let my blood energy explode. My blade swung in a wide arc toward the final head. The weakened beast couldn't react. The 3rd head left its body, soaring into the dark sky. The massive trunk collapsed, twitching uselessly as purple blood sprayed from the 3 stumps. A nauseating, metallic stench filled the air. I exhaled slowly, my heart hammering. If that thing had been at full strength, Huang Su said, walking over and wiping his blade. I don't think even 2 Aperture Realm warriors could have taken it so easily. Old Wu scrambled out of the bushes, his face lit with excitement. He began frantically stuffing the warm eggs into his pack. The meat isn't worth much, he barked. Get the skin, the gallbladder, and the blood. That's where the money is. We went to work. The skin alone filled 2 large bags. I took one, and Huang Su took the other. Old Wu carefully placed the gallbladder into a glass jar padded with foam. We were just about to move out when my gut twisted. It was a physical jolt of warning. I slammed my long sword up in front of my face. Clang. A bright yellow spark erupted off the flat of my blade. A split second later, the roar of a heavy rifle shattered the silence. Damn it, Old Wu yelled, diving for the dirt. Why didn't the alarms go off? You mean those ancient tripwire sensors? A voice called out from the trees. Those went out of style years ago. 3 men stepped out of the shadows, stopping about 50 meters away. They were all carrying rifles. TCH, looks like we ran into some actual hunters, Huang Su said, remarkably calm. He even spared a glance at Old Wu. I told you your tech was garbage, Old Wu. My face was grim. Even as an Aperture Realm martial artist, a bullet could still kill me. If it hit my muscles, it might get stuck, but a shot to the head or heart was game over. That bullet had been aimed right between my eyes. You 2 must be martial artists, the leader said. He was a bald man with eyes full of naked greed. He stared at our bulging packs. Let's be reasonable. Old rules apply. We split the catch 50-50, and everyone walks away happy. These guys were scavengers. They didn't have the guts to fight a 3-headed python themselves, but they were more than happy to kill the people who did. I looked at Huang Su. My silent question was clear. Do we fight? The bald man saw the look. He fired a shot into the air. Immediately, more shots rang out from the surrounding woods in a rhythmic pattern. There were at least 10 of them. I know you martial artists are tough, the leader said, crossing his arms. But we've got more than 3 people. Think long and hard about your next move. They were confident. They had killed martial artists before. To them, we were just faster, stronger targets, but targets nonetheless. A bullet to the brain kills a master just as fast as a peasant. What's the play? I whispered, my lips barely moving. You've got more experience. You've already decided, Huang Su replied, flicking the blood off his sword. He didn't even look at me. Why ask? I let out a cold grin. The decision was made. I narrowed my eyes at the bald man 50 meters away. It was time to see if their triggers were faster than my blade. I locked eyes with the bald man. He thought he had me cornered. I reached for the heavy pack on my back, my muscles bulging as I swung it with everything I had. I didn't throw it at him, though. I threw it at the lackey standing right next to him. The kid reached out, thinking he was catching a prize. A split second later, his world flipped. He saw his own headless body collapsing as the heavy bag crushed him. He never even felt the blade. I had moved under the cover of the flying pack, my sword singing through the air in a move called the Falling Thunder Slash. Trash like you should be praying I don't rob you, I muttered. I don't like losing, and I definitely don't like being threatened. I was an awakened martial artist now. I held all the cards. Huang Su was only a half step behind me. He lunged forward like a spring, his sword cutting another lackey clean in half at the waist. The bald leader broke into a cold sweat. He realized he couldn't even track our movements. But people who hunt monsters in the Black Mountains aren't easily scared. Kill them, he roared, leveling his gun at my chest. He knew he was dead, but he expected his hidden snipers to avenge him. I dove into the tall grass, bracing for a hail of bullets. Huang Su did the same. We waited for the impact, the sting of lead, the thunder of gunfire. Nothing happened. Aside from the leader's single, desperate shot that missed me by a mile, the woods stayed silent. I waited 10 seconds. Then 20. Did they turn on him? I wondered. I bolted out of the grass and delivered a heavy kick to the bald man's face, sending him sprawling. He didn't even fight back. He just stared at the trees, his eyes wide and vacant. "Where are my brothers?" he whimpered. "Why didn't they shoot?" Huang Su stepped out, looking just as confused as I was. We were two elite martial artists, and we'd just been bluffed by a guy whose backup had vanished into thin air. I slapped the bald man across the face to shut him up. "Stop acting," I snapped. "Where are they?" Old Wu, the appraiser who had been hiding, suddenly stepped forward. His face was pale. "He's not acting. We have a massive problem." I frowned, following his gaze. The three-headed python we had just killed was moving. The skinless, bloody carcass was twitching. Thin, red, vein-like threads were growing out of the ground, weaving into the meat like a pulse. "The Church of the Mid-King," Old Wu whispered, his voice trembling. My blood ran cold. The Church of the Mid-King was a cult that worshipped dark, alien gods. They were famous for manipulating corpses. This python hadn't been a natural beast, it was a biological weapon. By killing it, we had accidentally triggered its final evolution. "Run! Get out of here now!" Huang Su shouted. I didn't need to be told twice. I grabbed my pack, but then I looked at the bald man groveling on the dirt. "What are you doing?" the leader gasped. I didn't answer. I swung my blade 4 times, severing his arms and legs. He screamed, rolling in the dirt, a helpless heap of meat. "Thanks for buying us some time," I said coldly. We sprinted away. Behind us, the screams of the bald man were drowned out by a roar that shook the very earth. I looked back once and saw the python's body inflating. It wasn't a snake anymore. It was a mountain of rotting flesh and tumorous growths, expanding hundreds of times its original size. High above, silver streaks cut through the clouds. Fighter mechs. The Federation was moving in. "Shit, the army is here," I panted, pushing my legs to their limit. We reached the car, threw Old Wu inside, and tore out of the forest. By the time we looked back, the horizon was glowing with explosions. The battle was massive. If we had stayed even a minute longer, we would have been nothing but fertilizer for that thing. Once we were safe back in the city, Old Wu finally calmed down. "Can we still sell the scales and blood?" I asked. My life was still ticking away. I needed the money. Old Wu grinned nervously. "Actually, because it's linked to the cult, the authorities will pay a premium to study it. Leave it to me. I'll get you a better price than we agreed on." I nodded. A few days later, the money hit my account. Life returned to a strange kind of normal. I sat in my classroom at City High No. 1, watching the clouds. There were 52 days left until the final exams. "Did you hear?" my classmate Lu Qing whispered, leaning in. "They found cultists in the Black Mountains." I saw the explosions from my bedroom window. I just smiled and looked at my notebook. Everyone was praising the brave enforcement squads for discovering the plot early. Nobody knew that the hero who stopped the cult's plan was just a high school senior who really needed a paycheck. I waited for days, but the money from Old Wu never hit my account. I checked the black market, but he was nowhere to be found. He wasn't answering my messages either. If he hadn't left a cryptic note saying he needed more time, I would have assumed he'd bolted with my share of the loot. "Stay away from those cultists," Li Mingmao warned me as we sat in class. "People who seem perfectly normal can get brainwashed by those evil gods before you even realize it." Yeah, let's change the subject," Lu Qing added, looking genuinely spooked. She turned to us with a sigh. "There are only 50 days left until graduation. My good days are officially over. My dad wants me to come home and start managing the family business. He even wants me to work on the transport ships. It's going to kill me." Li Mingmao's expression remained cold. "I'm joining the army. I need to keep pushing my martial arts." Then, both of them turned their gaze toward me. I had been sitting there in silence, lost in my own thoughts. "I'm going to university," I said, repeating it for what felt like the 100th time. Lu Qing looked at me with wide, surprised eyes. You're actually serious? I thought you were just saying that to give yourself a goal. In our school, everyone talked about the elite universities, but few actually meant it. It was usually just a way to motivate themselves to train harder. There was an old saying, aim for the top and you might reach the middle. Aim for the middle and you'll end up at the bottom. You'd better hurry then, Li Mingmao said. Once the heavenly ladder rankings settle, the starships will arrive. You'll be competing against geniuses from other planets for those spots. Our school only has 4 university seeds right now, and honestly, who knows if any of them will actually make the cut. Last year, not a single student got in. The principal's face turned green from the shame. Li Mingmao wasn't bitter anymore. He had accepted his path. The army was a solid choice. The university entrance exams are live-streamed, right? I said with a confident grin. Just make sure you guys cheer for me when you see me on screen. Lu Qing rolled her eyes. So much confidence. Talk to me when you actually break into the top 10,000 on the ladder. Li Mingmao didn't say another word. He just climbed into his combat pod, closed his eyes, and logged into the virtual arena. 3 days later, my phone finally buzzed. Old Wu had sent the transfer. I stared at the screen, counting the zeros. 800,000 credits. I had never seen so much money in my life. This solved everything. I didn't hesitate. I headed straight to the martial arts library and purchased the first volume of the manual I had been eyeing, the primordial dragon elephant technique. It cost me 200,000. With the remaining 600,000, I bought every blood chi pill I could get my hands on. I was going to dump every cent into my lifespan. For the first time, I felt truly wealthy. The Black Mountains had been a nightmare, but the payout was worth the trauma. I decided then and there to stay away from the wilderness for a while. The cultists were likely furious about their 3-headed python, and the city guard was crawling everywhere. The city was the only safe place for me to grow. I met Old Wu at the black market to pick up the pills. When I told him I wanted 60,000 credits worth of blood chi medicine, he looked at me like I'd grown a second head. Are you insane? Old Wu hissed. You can't eat these like candy. Your body will build a resistance. If you take too many at once, the effect drops to 0. Eventually, it'll be like drinking plain water. Even Huang Su, who was standing nearby, glanced over in surprise. I have my own ways, I said, cutting him off. Are you selling or not? If not, I'll find someone else. Fine, fine, Old Wu muttered, waving his hands. A fool and his money are soon parted. I'll give you 12 high-grade pills for the lot. You're lucky I haven't found a buyer for this batch yet. The transaction was instant. 800,000 credits had flowed through my hands like water, leaving me broke again. But in return, I had 12 pills. That translated to 60 years of life. Added to the 42 years I already had, my total lifespan hit 102 years. I finally broke the century mark. I hurried home and locked the door. I swallowed the pills one by one, feeling the warmth spread through my chest as the system converted them. Then, I opened the primordial dragon elephant manual. I read every word, memorizing the flow of energy until I understood the foundation perfectly. I sat cross-legged on the floor and closed my eyes. System, I whispered in my mind. Begin life sacrifice deduction. First level of the primordial dragon elephant technique. Start. Year 1. You understand that this technique requires extreme patience. Even though a full year of training yields no visible results, you continue to grind. Year 10. You notice your body weight has increased by 10 kilograms. You aren't sure if it's the technique, but the change excites you. It means something is happening. Year 30. This is enough time to master 3 basic martial arts to their limit. Yet, your dragon elephant technique shows no breakthrough. However, your weight has ballooned by another 30 kilograms of pure, dense muscle. Year 50. Progress is agonizingly slow. You realize your natural talent is average at best, nowhere near the level of a martial god. But you don't panic. You keep going. Year 68. The training is no longer a chore. It has become as natural as breathing. It is your life. Year 73. The bottleneck finally snaps. You have mastered the first level of the primordial dragon elephant technique. Your heart remains calm as the deduction ends. Back in the real world, my eyes snapped open. I felt a massive shift in my physical form, a weight and power that felt like it could crush the very floor beneath me. I had sacrificed 73 years, but in an instant, I had become something more than human. Even though I had completed the first level of the primordial dragon elephant technique, my heart didn't race. I felt an eerie calm. I quickly shook off the trance and began to inspect my body. The dragon elephant martial god had mastered this first level in only 3 years. It took me 73. The gap in our natural talent was like the distance between heaven and earth. For a normal person, this level would take a lifetime. No wonder the martial god warned that without enough lifespan, one shouldn't even attempt it. I had heard that when a martial artist reaches the essence core realm, they can reshape their foundation. Maybe then I could become a true genius. But for now, I didn't care about the martial god's talent. He had his gifts, but I had my system. That was the ultimate cheat. The most obvious change was my strength. It surged through my veins like a tidal wave. I felt powerful enough to lift the heavens or uproot the earth. If I faced that 3-headed black mountain python again, I knew I could crush it with raw power alone. Thankfully, the system's deduction process acted as my own training, so this power was perfectly under my control. If it wasn't, a single step would have collapsed the floor of my house. Then there was my weight. I stepped on a scale and realized I had gained 80 kilograms. My outward appearance hadn't changed much, which meant my physical density had skyrocketed. Martial artists always get denser as they train, and I already weighed 130 kilograms when I first entered the opening orifices realm. But this new weight was terrifying. I wondered if martial gods could warp spacetime simply because their density was so high. It was just a guess, but stars do it, so why couldn't a god? I looked at my remaining lifespan, 29 years. I decided to keep pushing. I needed a better breathing technique. System, begin deduction of the primal magnetic breathing method. Year 1, you break through 1 orifice. Year 10, you have cleared 9 orifices. Year 20, you reach 21 orifices. Year 28, you hit the limit at 30 orifices. The deduction ended. 28 years of sacrifice for 30 orifices. It was a grueling process, but my blood energy surged, now carrying a faint trace of lightning. Lightning was one of the fundamental forces of the universe, and though I couldn't fully control it yet, its potential was limitless. I checked my status. I was now in the opening orifices realm with only 1 year of life left. My skills were impressive. Level 8 Thunderblade, the falling thunder flash intent, great success in the Great Dragon stance, 30 orifices opened in my breathing method, and the first level of the Dragon Elephant technique. Things were looking up. In just 1 month, I had become strong enough to surprise even myself. The next day at school, I sat in class listening to a lecture on the history of the Star Federation. Ever since humans first encountered star beasts in deep space, we had obsessed over individual power. Martial arts and mecha became our lifeblood. Now, a martial god equipped with a specialized god-tier mecha could take down an adult star beast alone. The Federation was vast, with trillions of people, yet there were only a few thousand martial gods. They were the pillars of human peace. Our planet, Blue White Star, only had a local area network. We weren't connected to the greater Federation web, so information was blurry. Only old professors who had actually traveled through space knew the truth. They talked about the era of isolation, where star systems were like lonely islands, until the Stargate teleportation technology was developed. That sparked a golden age of trade and culture. Blue White Star is big, the professors said, but compared to the universe, it's tiny. I hope you all get to see the stars for yourselves. During a break, I turned to my friend Huang Su. Have you ever left this planet? Huang Su looked confused. No. Why? If you want to go, just buy a tourist ticket for a starship. It's just money. I shook my head. I didn't know how to explain it. I didn't want a vacation. I wanted to experience the scale of the universe as a powerhouse. I dropped the subject. Forget it. Let's spar. Man, you're going to kill me. Huang Su complained, but he stood up anyway. Lately, I had stopped using the virtual combat platform. The 3-headed python fight taught me that virtual reality couldn't replicate the feeling of a life-and-death struggle. Real combat forced your blood energy to adapt to crisis. Real combat was what the university entrance exams required. Huang Su was the only one left who could give me a decent fight, Sparring with Lu Qing or Li Mingmao was a waste of time now. Of course, I held back. I didn't use the dragon elephant technique, and I suppressed my blood energy. Huang Su had only just entered the opening orifices realm. If I went all out, he wouldn't last a second. The fight ended quickly. Huang Su wiped sweat from his forehead, panting. "You're getting way too fast, man." I wasn't even sweating. My breathing returned to normal in seconds. "My goal is a top university. This isn't enough." Huang Su smiled. He knew I had secrets. He knew about the blood energy pills I bought from Old Wu. But he didn't ask. Everyone has secrets. "University, huh?" Huang Su said, his voice trailing off with a hint of melancholy. "Well, good luck. After graduation, I think I'm just going to start a business with Old Wu." "You have a real shot at the opening orifices realm," I said, looking at Huang Su. "Why give up now?" I was genuinely confused. In our school, and even in the second high school, all the top university candidates were already at that level. If Huang Su pushed himself, he could make it. But he just shook his head. "Getting into a university isn't that simple," Huang Su replied with a bitter smile. "Even if you become a top candidate, it doesn't mean you're in." Last year, every single candidate from both high schools failed the entrance exams. Every one of them was in the opening orifices realm. He looked at me seriously. "I have talent, sure. But in this vast galaxy, people stronger than me are everywhere. I know my limits." He laughed, quickly changing the subject so he wouldn't dampen my spirits. "Anyway, don't you want to know what kind of business Old Wu and I are starting? It's actually related to the universe talk we had earlier." "Interstellar trade?" I asked, surprised. "Do you guys even have the capital for that? A basic cargo ship costs an astronomical amount. That's not a game for normal people." Huang Su rolled his eyes. "You think too highly of me. We're going to be interstellar streamers." Interstellar streamers? The words sounded strange together. Surprised, right? Huang Su grinned. "I didn't see myself doing this either. Our planet, Blue-White, is on a local area network, so you don't see many of them here. But on the Federation network, they're everywhere. With a special device, viewers can experience everything the streamer does: sight, sound, even the feeling of being there." He leaned in closer. "Old Wu is a Westman. Their race doesn't have much talent for martial arts, but they're born for streaming. We're going to recruit a team of them. Between his talent and the connections we've built, I think we can make it work. Actually, I have you to thank. That big boss you helped me settle was the key to fixing our logistics." I nodded, finally understanding. Everyone has their own path. Huang Su's talent was top tier on this planet, and he could have had a great career in the military or government. But he had his own dreams. "Then I wish you and Old Wu a fortune," I said, cupping my hands in a traditional salute. "I'll hold you to that," Huang Su joked. "If you ever get tired of martial arts, come find me. I'll hire you as a streamer." "Tired?" I smiled. "Never. Martial arts is way too much fun." 43 days remained until the final ladder ranking settlement. I stood at the entrance of the school combat room, feeling the power surging through me. After my sessions with Huang Su, my techniques were polished. It was time to climb. I hadn't forgotten the rewards for reaching the top 10,000 or even the top 1,000. After the Black Mountain incident, my steady source of income had vanished. I hadn't made a single cent in days, and my lifespan was ticking away. Even without using the Great Dragon stance, I was confident I could break into the top 10,000. Most people at that rank were opening orifices experts, but there were levels to that power. I had already opened 30 orifices, making me significantly stronger than a beginner. My Grade 8 Thunderblade technique was something I had refined myself. It was more potent than standard martial arts because it fit me perfectly. I was ready. Inside the combat room, the atmosphere was heavy. "Damn it. He didn't give me any face at all," Lu Qing muttered, rubbing his bruised face. "My dad and his dad even do business together. We've shared meals at the same table. Just wait until I inherit the family business. I'll hire a squad of bodyguards to jump him and show him who's boss." Lu Qing's face was a mess of purple and blue bruises. Beside him, Li Mingmao looked even worse. She was pale, her breathing shallow, and her steps unsteady. "That opening orifice's strength is no joke," Lu Qing groaned. "I couldn't even take one hit from Shangwanji." Li Mingmao remained silent, her expression cold. She had tried to step in and mediate, thinking her status would mean something. Instead, Shangguan-ji had struck her down with a single move, leaving her with internal injuries. I warned Chen Yuan, Li Mingmao whispered, her voice tight with pain. If he won't listen, it's on him. Yesterday, Shangguan-ji had come to the combat room looking for me. He looked like he was out for blood. Lu Qing, trying to be a good friend, had stepped in to settle the grudge. Shangguan-ji hadn't even let him finish his sentence before attacking. The other students in the room were whispering, "Young Master Lu, Tiger Girl, why do you even bother with that guy?" One student called out. Chen Yuan thinks he's so tough now that he's picked up some skills. He hasn't even been hanging out with you guys lately. He probably thinks he's too good for us. Exactly, another added. Shangguan-ji is a jerk, but Chen Yuan isn't much better. They're both just arrogant because they have talent. Why risk your necks for someone who doesn't consider you a friend? Lu Qing glared at them, his eyebrows shooting up. Shut your mouths. Chen Yuan has just been busy. Forget it, Li Mingmao said quietly. We were just weaker than him. That's all there is to it. The crowd went back to their own business, half hoping to see a fight break out between Shangguan-ji and me just for the entertainment. Lu Qing, Li Mingmao, what happened to your faces? I walked into the room, my voice low. I had caught snippets of the conversation, something about Shangguan-ji and giving face. Looking at their injuries, I didn't need a genius to figure it out. Lu Qing jumped, startled. He hadn't even felt me approach. Oh, nothing. Tiger Girl and I were just sparring. You know, testing our limits. Li Mingmao didn't say a word. She just crossed her arms, looking away in frustration. It was Shangguan-ji, wasn't it? I asked. Because of me? Lu Qing froze. My guess hit the mark perfectly. Before he could lie again, someone from the crowd shouted, Yeah, Chen Yuan. They tried to stand up for you and got thrashed. My face went cold. I had planned to climb the ladder rankings slowly, but now, I didn't feel like being patient. I turned on my heel and headed for the door. Chen Yuan, where are you going? Lu Qing called out, panic in his voice. I didn't look back. I'm going to go hit him back for you. Wait. Li Mingmao finally spoke up, her voice urgent. She had felt Shangguan-ji's power firsthand. In her mind, even if I had reached the opening orifice's realm, there was no way I could win against someone like him. I knew what Li Mingmao was thinking. Shangguan-ji had broken into the opening orifice's realm back in the second semester of junior year. He had a full year of foundation building over me. To her, I was rushing to my doom. She and Lu Qing tried to stop me, but I was already gone. I didn't have time for a lecture on caution. Back in the combat room, the crowd realized the show wasn't over. They dropped their weights and abandoned their sparring mats, rushing for the exit. Hurry up. If we're late, we'll miss it. Chen Yuan is going after Shangguan-ji. The excitement was infectious, but I had one small problem. I realized I didn't actually know where the guy was. I didn't even know his class number. I reached out and grabbed a passing student by the shoulder. The kid looked startled, ready to snap at whoever was manhandling him. But when he looked into my eyes, he froze. I could see the primal fear in his expression, like a rabbit staring down a mountain tiger. My presence as a martial artist was leaking out, and his body knew it even if his mind didn't. Shangguan-ji, I said, my voice dropping an octave. Where is he? He's in class 8, building 5, 3rd floor. The kid stammered, his legs shaking. Just follow the hall. You can't miss it. I let him go and vanished down the corridor. Class 8 was in the middle of a break when I arrived. Some students were buried in their books, others were gossiping in circles, but one corner of the room was a dead zone. Everyone stayed at least 10 feet away from a single desk near the window. That was Shangguan-ji's spot. He was famous for his short fuse. Even his own classmates weren't safe from a stray slap if they breathed too loudly near him. I stood in the doorway, my eyes locking onto him. Shangguan-ji. He looked up, a sneer already forming on his face. He opened his mouth to bark an insult, but the words died in his throat. The air hissed. I didn't wait for a greeting. I drew my blade in one fluid motion and swung. The edge of the steel whistled through the air, narrowly missing his nose as he threw himself backward in a desperate leap. Crack! My blade slammed into his heavy wooden desk, splitting it clean in two. Chen Yuan. Shangguan-ji screamed, his face turning a deep, ugly red. He recognized me instantly. You're looking for death. He was furious. He hadn't even come to find me yet. and here I was, breaking his furniture and swinging steel at his face. "You're the one looking for death, you dog-faced waste," I spat. "I was too lazy to deal with you before, but now you're getting bold." I didn't give him room to breathe. I stepped forward and launched a vertical slash aimed straight for his head. Shangwanji roared, his blood chi surging as he drew his own sword to meet me. "You think I'm afraid of you?" The blade and sword were inches from colliding when a sound like a massive bronze bell echoed through the room. The vibrations were so intense my ears rang. Suddenly, a figure appeared between us. He caught my blade in one hand and Shangwanji's sword in the other. He didn't even use a weapon. He just held our steel in his bare palms, and neither of us could move an inch. "The principal," someone gasped. It was Fan Yaosheng, the head of Mountain City High. He was usually a ghost, rarely seen on campus, but he was no helpless academic. The way he caught my strike, even without me using the full power of the Great Dragon Stance, told me everything. He was at least in the body-severing realm, maybe higher. Haha, our school really is a den of hidden dragons, Fan Yaosheng laughed, his voice booming as he let go of our weapons. He looked at me with genuine surprise. "Chen Yuan, you've broken through to the opening orifices realm too? It looks like we have a fifth great university seed in our ranks." I sheathed my blade and stepped back, my eyes narrowed. I had expected a teacher to interfere, but not the big boss himself. "Principal, this brat is insane," Shangwanji shouted, trying to salvage his dignity. He walked in and tried to kill me. "Look at my desk. If I hadn't moved, that would be my head." He looked around the room, hoping his classmates would back him up. But every single student looked at the floor, refusing to meet his eyes. They hated him. "You attacked my friends just to get a rise out of me," I said coldly. "And now you're playing the victim? Don't be a coward." Just then, Lu Qing and Li Mingmao caught up, panting for breath. Lu Qing, seeing the principal, immediately turned on the waterworks. He shoved his bruised face right into Fan Yaosheng's personal space. "Principal, look at what he did to me. I'll never find a girlfriend with a face like this." I didn't even do anything, and he said he'd beat me every time he saw me. Li Mingmao wasn't as shameless as Lu Qing, but she played her part. She leaned against the wall, her face pale, looking like she was about to faint from internal injuries. The students who had followed us from the combat room started chiming in too. "It's true. We saw it." Shangwanji thrashed Lu Qing for no reason. It was brutal. Fan Yaosheng sighed and pushed Lu Qing's face away. He turned to Shangwanji, his expression turning stern. "It seems you started this, student Shangwan. How about an apology, and we call it even?" "Never," Shangwanji barked. "Apologize to a waste like me?" In his mind, that was a fate worse than death. This was exactly what I wanted. I didn't want a private brawl that would get me expelled. I wanted something official. "Principal," I said, my voice clear so the whole hall could hear. "I am formally challenging Shangwanji to a ladder match." The room went silent. A ladder match was the official way for top 10,000 ranked students to fight. It could be done virtually, but an offline ladder match was a real-world duel with official stakes. The winner went up, the loser went down. You could refuse a challenge, but not if you wanted to keep your reputation. If Shangwanji refused me now, in front of the principal and half the grade, he'd be the laughingstock of Mountain City. He'd be known as the Seed, who was terrified of a newcomer. I hadn't intended to kill him with that first strike. I wanted to force his hand. I needed resources, and I needed the school to recognize my status to get them. "I accept," Shangwanji hissed through gritted teeth. His pride left him no choice. Principal Fan Yaosheng looked between us. He smiled, his bald head glinting under the hallway lights. Having two powerful students fight wasn't a loss for him. It was a way to see who was truly worthy of the school's backing. "Fine," the principal announced. 3 days from now, on the Great Arena, I will personally officiate your ladder match." I cupped my fists in respect. "Thank you, principal." I wasn't a mindless brute. I knew when to use a blade and when to use the rules. In 3 days, I wouldn't just be getting revenge for my friends. I'd be taking everything Shangwanji had. I've never been the type to back down. If the table isn't set for me, I'll flip the whole thing over. If I can't eat, then nobody gets to eat. That's just how I operate. Principal Fan Yaosheng had made his decision, and I knew there was no going back now. Shangwanji stood across from me, his eyes burning with rage. He mouthed something silent and threatening, but I just felt like laughing. To me, he was nothing more than a dog, a piece of trash. I'd let him enjoy his last 3 days of peace. I turned and walked away, surrounded by the murmurs of the crowd. Behind me, Shangwanji's hand gripped the hilt of his longsword so hard his knuckles turned white. He had warned me once before to stay away from Huang Su, and I'd ignored him completely. He thought I was a loser, a nobody. Now, suddenly, I had broken through to the opening orifice realm. I was actually a threat. I'll show you. I could almost hear him thinking. The gap between two fighters in the same realm can be bigger than the gap between a human and a dog. Principal Fan watched us go, rubbing his smooth, bald head. He let out a long sigh. On one hand, he was thrilled to have another elite seed student in the school. On the other hand, this much drama was a headache. Still, he knew the rules of the world. Strength was everything. The ladder match would settle it. As I reached the hallway, Lu Qing caught up to me, looking worried. Chen Yuan, are you sure about this? She asked. You're in the opening orifice realm now, sure, but Shangwanji has been there for a year. He's probably mastered a ranked martial art by now. You're being impulsive. There were only 4 seeds in the entire school. Shangwanji was one of them for a reason. When have I ever done something I wasn't prepared for? I countered. Lu Qing bit her lip. She didn't know where my confidence came from, but she decided to roll the dice. Fine. If you're that sure, I'm putting 200,000 star credits on you to win. I stopped in my tracks. Betting on me? What do you mean? The match, she said, grinning. The principal is officiating. Everyone is going to be watching. When there's a crowd, there's always a betting pool. If you're really going to win, I'm going all in. Think of it as compensation for my destroyed training room. A light bulb went off in my head. Money. I needed a lot of it. Later that day, I sat in a private room on the 3rd floor of the Hushuan restaurant. Huang Su stared at the 6 plates of earth dragon meat I had ordered, his face a mask of confusion. Since when did you become so generous? He asked. Usually, he was the one paying for my meals. The Iron Rooster, Chen Yuan, famous for never spending a cent, had actually invited him out. What's the catch? Tell me now, or I'm not touching the chopsticks. I didn't waste time. Huang Su, do you want to make some serious money? He blinked. Make money? How? I told him about the ladder match and the betting pools. Put everything you can on me to win. After I take him down, we split the profits 50-50. Huang Su hesitated. Shangwanji is a monster. I've been avoiding him for a reason. Why don't you just bet on yourself? I spread my hands. I'm broke. I've already mortgaged my house. I don't have a cent to my name. Are you absolutely sure you can win? Huang Su's voice was dead serious. I'm sure, I replied. He thought about it for a few seconds, then nodded. Fine. I'll gamble with you. But 50-50 isn't fair since I'm taking all the financial risk. 70-30. My way. Deal, I said, leaning back. I knew you had the guts. Ever since the Black Mountain Python incident, my resources had run dry. My progress had stalled because I didn't have the funds to fuel the system. This match was my golden ticket. If you're that confident, Huang Su added, I'll bring Old Wu in on this too. I'll convince him to bet on you. Same split, 70-30. Sound good? The more the merrier, I said. Bring in whoever you want. You better not screw this up, Huang Su warned. If you lose, our reputations and our wallets are dead. Just eat. I laughed, grabbing a slice of earth dragon meat. We're going to be rich. Huang Su picked up his chopsticks, then paused. Wait, you said you're broke. How are you paying for this meal? I didn't even look up. Cover it for now. Just deduct it from my share of the winnings. He groaned. I really was milking him for everything he had. While I was planning my payday, Shangwanji was training. His sword blurred through the air, piercing the atmosphere with a sharp whistle. He struck a wooden training post, and the accumulated force exploded, shattering the wood into splinters. He sheathed his blade, looking toward his instructor. Your Star Treasure Sword technique has reached the clear logic stage, the instructor praised. To concentrate all that power into a single point, it's impressive. Martial arts were ranked by tiers, and within each tier, there were 4 levels of mastery: entry, clear logic, nuance, and transcendence. For a student to reach clear logic in a first-rank technique was rare. It put him far above the average fighter. I still have a long way to go before I reach the level of the top universities, Shang Wanji said, though a smirk played on his lips. He was proud. He had the talent, the family backing, and the resources. Don't be discouraged, the teacher said. The university exams are about more than just realm. Even if you don't make it, your family will ensure you have a career here on planet Blue-White. Shang Wanji nodded, but his eyes turned cold. On this planet, he was a genius. He had been quiet for too long, and it had made people like me forget my place. Chun Yuan, he hissed, his grip tightening on his sword. Just wait. 3 days. I'll show everyone what a real genius looks like. He had never lost a fight like the one we had in the hall. To him, I was a bug meant to be crushed under his boot. He was going to enjoy making me crawl again. The people around Shang Wanji looked at him like he was a god, forgetting that he had once been considered a waste. His instructor watched him intently, sensing the dark energy radiating from his student. I heard about what happened at your school, the instructor said, his voice low. This Chun Yuan is just an orphan. You have the talent and the training. As long as you perform steadily, beating him will be easy. Shang Wanji gripped his sword, his knuckles white. Remember, the instructor warned. Do not let anger cloud your mind. You must control your body, not your emotions. Shang Wanji took a long, deep breath. He forced the rage down into a cold, hard knot in his stomach. He bowed deeply, his voice calm but lethal. I will remember your teachings, master. I, Shang Wanji, will not lose. 3 days passed in a blur. The news of the challenge had spread through Shanxing High School No. 1 like wildfire. It wasn't just a simple fight. It was a ladder match for a spot in the top 10,000 of the Star Federation rankings. On one side was Shang Wanji, a confirmed university seed with a bright future. On the other was me, Chun Yuan, a complete unknown who had appeared out of nowhere. Even people who didn't care about martial arts were talking about it. Because it was a rare offline match, the school was packed. Students from other high schools and even rival university seeds had shown up to see the spectacle. In our city, there were only a handful of students considered elite enough for the top universities. They all knew each other. They had fought on the virtual ladder dozens of times. But my name was a blank slate. They wanted to see if I was a real threat or just a joke. Li Ming Mao, it's been a while, a voice called out in the stands. You barely log onto the ladder anymore. If it wasn't for the rank decay system, would you even show up for the university exams? Li Ming Mao didn't look back. Don't overthink it. My technique is at a critical breakthrough point. If I can push through before the exams, my chances of getting into a top-tier school skyrocket. Nearby, a tall, rugged student looked around. Isn't that Wang Qianjun from school No. 1? Hey, Wang, who is this Chun Yuan guy? Where did he come from? Wang Qianjun shook his head. He had just returned from a mission with the law enforcement squad. I don't know. I've never heard of him. It's like he just popped out of a crack in a rock. Wang Qianjun was different from Shang Wanji. He came from a poor family and had lost his father young. He fought for resources, trading his blood and sweat for every bit of progress. He was a real powerhouse, ranked in the 6,000s. He was genuinely confused. How could a genius just appear overnight without anyone noticing? School No. 1 is impressive, someone complimented. Another university seed candidate? My school only has 2. Wang Qianjun gave a polite, tight-lipped smile. He wasn't good at small talk. He would rather be back in the training hall hitting a dummy than sitting here talking to scouts and rivals. The fight was set at the back of the school mountain. The arena was massive, a 300-meter square of solid bluestone reinforced with a special alloy. Even a martial artist at the 9th level of the Blood Exchange realm would struggle to leave a scratch on it. Thousands of seats surrounded the stage, and they were all full. Teachers, principals, and even city officials sat in the front rows. Old Fan, is this your 5th university seed? A voice joked. Principal Fan Yaoxing turned to see the principal of school No. 2, a chubby man with a perpetual grin. It's just 2 students having a match, Fan replied, sounding annoyed. What are you doing here? I came to congratulate you, of course, the chubby principal laughed, patting his stomach. But we can talk later. Let's discuss the university entrance exams in your office after the show. Down by the stage, I was getting ready. Huang Su was pacing back and forth next to me, looking like he was the one about to fight. Chun Yuan, listen to me, Huang Su hissed. Old Wu and I put almost everything we have on you. We're betting big. If you win, we split the profits 70-30 like we agreed. But if you lose, well, Old Wu said he'll never give you a discount again. You have to be serious. This isn't a practice round. I sighed. Huang Su had been saying the same thing for 20 minutes. I knew Old Wu had been hesitant to take the bet. He thought giving me 30% of the winnings was too much since I was the one taking the risk of losing, but Huang Su had talked him into it. Huang Su felt guilty for getting me into this mess with Shang Wanji, and he wanted me to get paid. Relax, I said, my voice flat. I can't relax. Do you know how much money is on the line? I looked him in the eye. I've told you 5 times already. I'm going to win. He still looked unconvinced, so I leaned in closer. When we spar, I hold back because I'm afraid I'll accidentally kill you with one strike. Does that make you feel better? Huang Su froze. He compared my strength to what he knew of Shang Wanji. If I wasn't lying, if I really was that much stronger than him, then Shang Wanji was in serious trouble. All right, I said, stretching my arms. The principal is on the podium. It's time. Huang Su threw 2 punches at the air, grinning nervously. Go get him. Punch that smug look off his face for me. No problem, I said, walking toward the stone steps. I'll give him an extra one just for you. I didn't look back. I kept my eyes on the stage, feeling the power of the great dragon stance coursing through my veins. It was time to show them what 15 years of my life had bought me. I stepped onto the massive arena under the gaze of nearly 1,000 people. My footsteps were slow and deliberate. On the podium, Principal Fan Yaoxing started his speech. He talked about the hardships of founding the school, its development, and the blood and sweat poured into the students. Anyone who knew him knew this would take a while. He wasn't stopping anytime soon. Down in the 3rd row of the stands, Wang Qianjun watched me intently. We had never spoken, but he knew my story. He knew my parents had died in an accident and that I had fought my way to this point entirely on my own. Being a scholarship student from a humble background himself, he felt a strange sense of kinship with me. The other top students came from prestigious families with deep pockets. Wang Qianjun didn't fit into their circle, and he didn't care to try. Wang Qianjun, who do you think wins this? The person sitting next to him asked. It's hard to say, Wang Qianjun replied, his eyes never leaving the ring. I heard Qin Yuan just recently broke into the opening orifice realm. Shang Wanji has been at that level for a long time and has mastered several high-level martial arts. Rationally speaking, Shang Wanji has the advantage. Haha, I thought so too, the guy laughed. The betting odds for Qin Yuan are much higher, which means the bookies think he's going to lose. I put my money on Shang Wanji. He better not let me down. Wang Qianjun just shook his head. He didn't gamble. To him, a fight between martial artists was never a sure thing. A single detail could flip the result in a second. Deep down, he wanted me to win. He wanted someone to talk to, someone who understood what it was like to struggle for every inch of progress. Up on the stage, the principal finally reached his conclusion. Friendship first, competition second, he shouted. You are both students of First High. You both fight for the peace of humanity. With that, Fan Yaoxing stepped back. The principal of Second High, who was visiting, leaned over with a curious look. Old Fan, be honest. Who wins? I don't know, Fan Yaoxing admitted. The other principal looked shocked. They're your students. You stopped them from fighting earlier. You must have felt their strength. On paper, Shang Wanji wins, Fan Yaoxing said with a small smile. But did you even know who Qin Yuan was a month ago? The other man shook his head. Exactly. He appeared out of nowhere and reached the opening orifice realm in record time. Even I can't see through him. If he's been hiding his true strength this whole time, he might just show us something that will make our jaws drop. Basically, the principal was saying he had no clue. In the center of the ring, Shang Wanji and I stood 100 meters apart. We didn't speak. We didn't even look at each other. Shang Wanji didn't look at me because he despised the weak. I didn't look at him because I don't like talking before a fight. I prefer talking to dead people. They don't talk back, and they don't cause surprises. The referee, a martial arts teacher, looked between us, hoping for some pre-match banter to hype up the crowd. Seeing our cold expressions, he realized he was wasting his time. He raised his hand high and dropped it. Begin. The moment the word left his lips, Shang Wanji moved. To the untrained eye, he blurred. His body seemed to turn into a literal mist, shifting and shimmering as he charged. It was a first-grade movement technique called the cloud-treading step. Wang Qianjun watched closely. He had never fought Shangguanji before, and he noted that while the footwork looked fancy, it was only at the initial success stage. It was flashy but lacked depth. I didn't rush in. I had seen the movement technique and wasn't about to be reckless. I drew my blade and focused on a total defense, my weapon creating a wall of steel around me. They say a lion uses its full strength even when hunting a rabbit, but that only works if the lion knows the rabbit's tricks. I had only ever sparred with Huang Su. I didn't know how I stacked up against a genius like Shangguanji. I needed to feel him out first. I was confident, but I wasn't stupid. If I swung full force and missed, I'd leave a massive opening. Asterisk clang, 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 asterisk. Our weapons collided in a rapid-fire rhythm. To the crowd, it looked like I was being completely suppressed. I was backed up, my blade moving frantically just to stay alive. As expected of a top seed, someone cheered. He's so fast I can barely see him. Yes, my bet is safe, another shouted. I've lost 10 times in a row, finally a win. But people like Wang Qianjun and Huang Su saw the truth. This wasn't a slaughter. It was a probe. Neither of us was using our full power yet. As I parried his strikes, I realized something was very wrong. It wasn't that Shangguanji was stronger than I expected. It was the opposite. He was incredibly weak. Based on his ranking, I assumed he had opened at least 80 to 100 orifices. I thought that without using my Great Dragon stance, I would be crushed in terms of speed and raw power. But as our blades clashed, I felt his impact. He had only opened about 30 orifices, roughly the same as me. The opponent I had spent so much time worrying about was a lightweight. A wave of irritation washed over me. I had been being so careful for nothing. Fine, I thought. No more playing around. 10 seconds, I whispered to myself. I'll end this in 10 seconds. Shangguanji grew frustrated that he couldn't break my guard. What's the matter, trash? Can you only hide behind your sword? He had realized my cultivation level was similar to his, and it bothered him. He lunged again, using that misty movement technique to try and dazzle me. Up close, I saw it for what it really was, a parlor trick. It was designed to confuse the eyes, but it did nothing for his actual speed. It was useless, and so was he. As you wish, I muttered. I slammed my foot down, and the power of the Great Dragon stance exploded through my veins. Every muscle in my body tightened. I felt myself physically expand, my school uniform stretching thin against my growing frame. All 30 of my opened orifices exhaled at once. Faint blue mist flickered between my hands like static. The sound of a muffled thunderclap ripped through the cloudless sky. Falling thunderstrike. I moved. My body turned into a blur of electric light, trailing the roar of thunder as I lunged toward Shangguanji. Haha, basic martial arts. Shangguanji sneered, his eyes filled with contempt. You haven't even mastered a ranked technique. He didn't back down. He channeled his blood energy into the tip of his sword, meeting my charge head-on. We collided. A shock wave of air blasted outward like a gale, nearly knocking the spectators back. Then came a sharp crack. My blade shattered. Dozens of metal shards whistled through the air. The referee moved instantly, blurring around the ring to swat the fragments away before they could hit the crowd. Your sword is gone. Shangguanji laughed, his voice triumphant. How can you win now? I wasn't surprised. My sword was a cheap piece of junk. With my strength surging and the power of the Great Dragon stance fueling me, the weapon simply couldn't handle the pressure. It was a shame, though, because the blade broke. That strike only carried about 30% of my total power. It's over, I said quietly. I stepped forward. The heavy metal stage groaned and dinted under my heel. My bones sang in unison as the terrifying power of the dragon elephant gathered in my right fist. No flashy tricks. Just raw, unadulterated violence. Shangguanji was still riding his high. He swung his sword down at my head. I didn't dodge. I punched the side of his blade. He kept smiling, trying to adjust his arc to split my skull. Crunch. This time, it was his sword that turned into scrap metal. His smile froze. He stared at the broken hilt in total shock. Impossible, he stammered. This is a high-grade alloy. How could a fist? Because you're weak, I interrupted. Weaker than I ever imagined. Before he could react, I unleashed a punch straight into his chest. The sound was sickening, a rapid-fire series of pops and cracks as his ribs gave way. His face went pale. Blood surged up his throat, and he flew backward like a rag doll. I was faster. I lunged, grabbing his head with my left hand midair and slamming him back down toward the floor. The whole exchange took less than 2 seconds. The referee was still busy catching the shards from my broken sword when I pinned Shangwanji. "Chen Yuan, stop!" Principal Fan Yaoxing shouted. He leaped from the stands, soaring through the air to intervene. But he was too late. "What are you doing?" Shangwanji gasped, struggling feebly. My grip on his face was so tight, I felt like I might crush his skull. "I'm breaking you," I hissed. I drove my fist into his chest one more time. No bone cracks this time. There were no ribs left to break. Just the dull thud of internal organs being pulverized. Shangwanji's eyes rolled back, and he slumped into unconsciousness. "Chen Yuan, what have you done?" Principal Fan finally arrived, snatching the limp body from my hands. He checked the boy's pulse, his brow furrowing into a deep scowl. "You already won. Why be so cruel?" "It's a duel," I said, standing tall. "People get hurt. When he swung at my neck earlier, he wasn't trying to be gentle. When he attacked Lu Qing and the others, did he care about being cruel? If I were the weak one, would you be scolding him right now?" Fan Yaoxing sighed heavily. "Even so, this was too much. You had other choices." I grinned at him. But this felt better. If there's a punishment, just give it to me. I knew what I was doing. I hadn't killed him, but I had ruined him. The recovery time for those injuries would be months. He would miss the college entrance exams. I didn't just beat him, I erased his future. And as long as he was breathing, the school couldn't execute me for it. "Go," Fan Yaoxing barked, waving me away. "Wait for the school's decision. I won't overlook this." I walked off the stage into a wall of silence. I was confused. That was it. The principal seemed angry, but it felt like a performance. He was scolding me for the crowd, but his punishment was basically non-existent. For some reason, he was protecting me. Behind me, the crowd finally exploded. "Shangwanji, you bastard," someone screamed. "I bet my entire life savings on you." "Chen Yuan actually won," another whispered in awe. "He's a monster. He just took down the top seed." The other elite students in the stands, the university seeds, looked like they had seen a ghost. Even Wang Qianjun was pale. They were all asking themselves the same thing. Could I survive a hit from that guy? Later, in the privacy of the principal's office, Fan Yaoxing dropped his stern act. He looked out the window and let out a huge, sudden laugh. All right, the principal of high school number 2 said, leaning back in a chair. "There's no one here now. You can stop pretending to be mad." "I can't help it." Fan Yaoxing beamed, unable to hide his joy. "Laugh all you want," the other principal sighed. "If I had a student like that in my school, I'd be laughing even louder." Fan Yaoxing laughed for a long time. He looked like he had just won the lottery. Once he finally settled down, the principal of high school number 2 waved a hand, cutting through the celebration. "Forget the small talk," the other principal said, leaning forward. "Tell me about this kid, Chen Yuan. What's the deal? Is it a unique physical constitution, or did he master some secret technique?" That power was insane. Even a martial artist at the peak of the aperture realm, with all 361 points opened, shouldn't have strength like that. Fan Yaoxing didn't answer immediately. He took his time brewing a cup of tea, letting the steam rise before he spoke. "To be honest, I'm not entirely sure," he admitted. "But I have some intel. Not long ago, Chen Yuan purchased the manual for the mixed Yuan dragon elephant technique." The other principal bolted upright, his eyes wide. "You're telling me he mastered it? The dragon elephant technique?" I knew the history of that art. It first became famous when the dragon elephant martial god used it to break through his limits. He didn't create it, and he never revealed where it came from, but his success made the technique legendary. Thousands of geniuses across the Star Federation tried to follow in his footsteps. Most of them failed miserably. The first 3 levels were difficult, but manageable. But from the 4th level onward, even the most gifted prodigies needed hundreds of years to progress. It became a trap, a waste of time and energy that offered diminishing returns. Eventually, people stopped trying. It was considered a dead-end martial art. It's only been about 10 days since he bought the first level, Fan Yaoxing said calmly. 10 days. The other principal scoffed, sinking back into his chair. Are you dreaming, or am I? If he mastered the first level in 10 days, he wouldn't be on this backwater planet. The entire Federation would be treating him like a god. Even the dragon elephant martial god took 3 years to master the first level. He shook his head, looking frustrated. So what is it? Natural divine strength? That's a bit too much strength for a coincidence. Fan Yaoxing stopped playing games. My guess? Qin Yuan likely possesses a special constitution, specifically the Taodai god body. The other principal's pupils contracted. The Taodai god body was rare, but it was a much more believable explanation than mastering a legendary technique in 10 days. The legends said those with the Taodai body could devour anything to rapidly increase their strength. Devouring everything to nourish the self, Fan Yaoxing whispered. Unstoppable force, boundless power. He leaned in closer. I did some digging. The kid has been obsessed with making money lately. He buys massive amounts of cultivation resources and consumes them all instantly. I think his Taodai body awakened recently, maybe a year or 2 ago. Buying the dragon elephant technique was probably just a cover to hide his true nature. The other principal rubbed his chin. You know, that actually makes sense. It explains the gaps. It's not scientific for him to be a genius at that technique, but a Taodai body? That fits the history books. Even the dragon elephant martial god was rumored to have one. Fan Yaoxing laughed again. Look, he's a student at my school. I don't care if he's a Taodai or not. If he wants to hide it, I'll help him. We have a silent understanding. Last year, our university seeds were a disaster. This year, with Qin Yuan as a wild card, I'm guaranteed at least one top-tier university slot. My heart is finally at ease. He paused, thinking about the brutal way I had ended the fight. He was a bit ruthless, but it doesn't matter. His value far outweighs Shangwanji's. Actually, the other principal said, that's what I wanted to talk about. Our schools, and the others in Shanxing, need to form a real alliance for the great entrance exam. Last year was embarrassing. We need to win back some respect. Fan Yaoxing looked surprised. An alliance? Don't we always do that? No. The other man shook his head. Those are just words. Once the kids get into the exam, they fight for themselves. I want a unified front. I want our students to move as one. It's a good idea, Fan Yaoxing noted. But these kids have minds of their own. How do you plan to control them? Bait them, the principal replied. We pool our resources and offer rewards to the ones who listen. We make them sign a unified front agreement. Fan Yaoxing wasn't convinced. The kids from big families won't care about our rewards. But it might work for the ones who are desperate for resources. Kids like Qin Yuan or Wang Qianjun. It's better than doing nothing, the other principal sighed. He was clearly haunted by last year's failure. Fine, Fan Yaoxing agreed. I'll talk to the other old guys in the city. Let's see if we can stop being the laughingstock of the Federation. As they plotted my future, I was walking off the stage. The adrenaline was still humming through my veins. Qin Yuan, you lucky bastard. Huang Su ran toward me, his face red with excitement. You were hiding so much. Even Shangwan Ji couldn't touch you. He was shouting so loud the whole hallway could hear him. We hit the jackpot. Old Wu just messaged me. He told me to thank you 1,000 times. I didn't care much about the praise. I had a more pressing concern. How much did we make? What's my cut? This fight was my biggest payday yet. Between the gambling winnings, the ranking rewards, and the new contract I was about to sign with the school, I was looking at a massive influx of resources. And resources meant one thing: more years added to my life. Your share should be around 800,000 credits, Huang Su said, his voice trembling with joy. It'll be in your account by the day after tomorrow. 800,000. I had gone in with nothing and come out with a fortune. Huang Su and Old Wu had cleared nearly 2 million between them. It was a staggering amount of money for a high schooler. For the first time in a long while, I felt like I could finally breathe. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was winning. It was a simple bet, yet I had walked away with a fortune. 2 million credits was essentially free money, far more than I could have earned risking my life hunting beasts in the Black Mountains. Huang Su told me the transfer would take a few days, but I didn't mind waiting. We had worked together enough that a basic level of trust existed between us. Huang Su loved money, but he viewed it as a tool, not the end goal. That was an important distinction. Man, I was really strapped for cash before this, Huang Su said, his face splitting into a grin. Now things are finally looking up. Chen Yuan, you're my lucky star. He paused, his smile fading slightly. We're leaving soon. I blinked, surprised by the sudden shift. Leaving? When? In a week, he replied. The paperwork at the second high school is finished. Old Wu and I are almost ready. We're leaving the blue-white planet. I already knew the answer, but I asked anyway. You're not staying? This place is too remote, Huang Su complained. The Federation network is barely stable here. You can't build a career as an interstellar streamer in a backwater like this. Old Wu is taking me to his home planet, Shima. We're going to recruit the first batch of streamers and start a company. He has the experience, and I'll learn as I go. Maybe next time you see me, I'll be a major shareholder. I went quiet for a few seconds, then forced a smile. That sounds great. If I ever fail at martial arts, I'll come find you. You can give me a job as a streamer so I don't starve. Huang Su laughed and agreed immediately, but we both knew it was just talk. After my fight with Shangwan Ji, my talent was obvious to everyone. If a blood seed, like me, couldn't make it, no one on this planet could. We said our goodbyes, knowing it might be a long time before our paths crossed again. As soon as Huang Su left, Lu Qing and Li Mingmao cornered me. Chen Yuan, why didn't you give me a heads up? Lu Qing grumbled, though she couldn't hide her massive grin. I only bet 20,000 credits. I missed out on so much profit. How is that my fault? I shot back. It just means you didn't trust me enough to bet your whole life savings. Li Mingmao just sighed, looking at me with a mix of respect and envy. You beat Shangwan Ji. Your rank is in the top 8,000 now, and it's still climbing. You're definitely getting into a top university. He looked down at his hands. I've accepted it. The gap between people is sometimes bigger than the gap between humans and dogs. I'm joining the army after graduation. I'll keep practicing martial arts there. There's still hope. I heard the university exams are broadcast live, Lu Qing added. I'll be cheering for you. Oh, and my dad is throwing me a graduation party in 3 days. You guys should come. After that, I won't be at school anymore. My dad is making me join a shipping crew to gain some experience. I was stunned. First Huang Su, now Lu Qing. Everyone was moving on so fast. My talent is average, Lu Qing said, trying to sound casual. I've been stuck at the 3rd level of the blood exchange realm for years. I don't even qualify for the military. It's time to stop dreaming and just inherit the family business. I'm going to start living the easy life while you guys keep struggling. She was joking, but I could see the lingering regret in her eyes. She truly loved martial arts, but her body had reached its limit. Most people would have quit years ago, but she had pushed until there was nowhere left to go. I turned to Li Mingmao. What about you? Are you running away too? He nodded. Pretty much. I'll probably leave before you do. I signed up for the blue-white planet border guard. I leave in 10 days. It hit me then. I was going to be the last one left. It felt like my previous life, watching roommates pack their bags one by one after graduation while I stayed behind for grad school. Don't look so sad. I'm not dying. Lu Qing laughed, breaking the tension. Just make sure you show up to the party. My dad is serving high-end stuff you can't get anywhere else. The next day, the school summoned me. I met with Principal Fan Yaoxing to sign my new contract. You didn't kill Shangwan Ji, but you crippled him, Fan Yaoxing said, his voice grave. The school suffered losses because of that. As a punishment, we've decided to lower your contract grade. Based on your performance, you deserved an A-level contract. Now, it will only be B-level. Do you accept? I accept, I said without hesitation. I had known there would be consequences for my actions. I could have played it safe for more rewards, but crushing Shangwan Ji had felt too good to regret. Fan Yaoxing stepped closer and patted my shoulder, his tone softening. Understand this, kid. The downgrade is just for show. We need to give the public an answer since he was the blood seed of the first high school. Consider the lost resources as payment for me, keeping the Shangwan family off your back. I'll handle them. You just focus on training. I understand. Thank you, Principal, I replied. I wasn't ungrateful. He was clearly protecting me. Good, he nodded. Go sign the B-level contract and collect your resources from the finance office. I know you're busy. Don't let me down at the university entrance exams. I signed the contract on the spot. Principal Fan Yaosheng had given me a personal note to take to the finance office, and I didn't waste a second. Even though it was officially a B-level contract, the resources I received told a different story. I walked out with 200,000 star coins, 3 Yunxiao pills, and 2 grade 2 blood chi pills. They even threw in a custom-made long blade worth 300,000 and 2 grade 1 martial arts techniques of my choice. When I crunched the numbers, the total value hit nearly 1.5 million star coins. That wasn't a B-level reward, it was an A-level package. I realized then that the principal was looking out for me. He publicly downgraded the contract to appease the masses after I crippled their star student, but he made sure I didn't actually lose a cent. But that wasn't all I had. I also had my monthly salary from the big boss, 2 more blood chi pills and 5 bottles of nutrient solution. Plus, I had the 50,000 star coin reward for hitting the top 100,000 on the ladder and 1 final subsidy from the Star Federation. I had been hoarding everything for a massive breakthrough before the university entrance exams. First, I had to handle my debts. I still owed 300,000 star coins on the mortgage for my house. After paying that off and adding the 800,000 I got from my cut with Huang Su, I was sitting on 1.2 million star coins in cash. Looking at my haul, I felt a sudden surge of wealth. I had never seen this much money or this many pills in my life. I decided to keep the cash to buy more grade 1 blood chi pills from Old Wu later. As for the pills I already had, I didn't see any point in waiting. I fed them all to the system. The lifespan counter, which hadn't moved in 10 days, began to spin like a slot machine. 1 year, 2 years, 10, all the way up to 91. I checked the math. A grade 2 blood chi pill cost 150,000 coins, the same as a Yunxiao pill. But while the Yunxiao pill gave me 15 years of life, the grade 2 only gave me 10. It wasn't as cost-effective as the grade 1 pills. No wonder the Federation kept such a tight grip on the Yunxiao supply. They were pure gold. 91 years was a good start, but I wanted more. If I spent my 1.2 million coins on grade 1 pills, I could get another 20 bottles. That would be another 100 years of life. You want to buy how many? Old Wu stared at me in the black market, his jaw dropping. You're eating these things like candy. Even a high-level martial artist needs weeks to digest a single pill. Your stomach must be a black hole. I have my reasons, I said, not bothering with an excuse. Can you get them or not? I was done playing the hidden master game. I needed resources to get stronger, and if I hid my talent, no one would invest in me. No B-level contract, no high-paying jobs, no connections. If you want people to treat you like a dragon, you can't pretend to be a pig. I had to show the world I was a genius so they would keep the resources flowing. Old Wu wanted to argue, but Huang Su stepped in and shook his head. Huang Su was a martial artist. He knew my talent was abnormal, but he was smart enough not to ask questions. If he wants them, sell them, Huang Su smiled. It's 1.2 million coins. Take the profit. Old Wu sighed and nodded. Fine, but I'm low on stock. I'll have to source them from elsewhere. Give me 2 days. This will be my last deal on this planet anyway. Huang Su and I are leaving soon. Let me know when, I said. I'll see you off. After leaving the black market, I rushed to the bank to pay off my mortgage. Funny enough, the manager recognized me from the fight with Shang Wanji. He knew I was ranked in the top 8,000 on the ladder now and waived all my interest on the spot. With the debt gone, I focused on my progress. The first level of the Great Dragon Elephant art was terrifyingly powerful, but the requirements were insane. It had cost me 73 years of life just to master the first stage. Based on my estimates, the second stage would probably cost 300 years. 300 years meant 60 grade 1 pills, or 4.2 million star coins. It sounded like an impossible sum now, but I knew university would change everything. The top schools held all the resources of the Star Federation. If you had the talent, the resources were endless. My thoughts were interrupted by a notification on my terminal. It was Li Mingmao. It was time for Lu Qing's graduation party. The night was clear as I headed out. Lu Qing wasn't the best martial artist, but he was a social butterfly. He had invited a few of us from the combat rooms. He had a wealthy family and a bright future ahead of him. even without a top-tier cultivation. I wasn't particularly close to the others, but for tonight, I just wanted to be a normal student one last time. In our small group, everyone knew I was the one to watch. They saw me as the university seed who had taken down Shangwanji. They kept telling me that my future was guaranteed and that I'd be famous soon. Hey, Shin Yuan, don't forget us when you're rich and powerful, they joked. Make sure to give us a hand later on. I just smiled and stayed quiet. I never made promises lightly, even as a joke. If I said I'd do something, I meant it, so I preferred to say nothing at all. The others didn't seem to mind and kept chatting among themselves as we walked. The party was at the splendid hotel in the center of Shanxing. Lu Qing's family had rented out an entire floor. It was supposed to be a graduation party, but it was really a networking event for the local elite. My friends and I didn't care about that. We were just there for the free food. As we walked, I suddenly sensed something. I stopped in my tracks. I think I saw an old acquaintance, I told the group. Go on ahead, I'll catch up in a bit. Li Mingmao looked around at the dark, empty street, looking confused. Who? It's pitch black out here. Anyway, don't be late. We're heading up. No problem, I laughed. Save some of the good stuff for me. The others laughed and walked away. As soon as their silhouettes faded into the distance, my blood began to boil. I circulated my energy, ready to strike at a moment's notice. Come out, I said, my voice echoing in the silence. It's just me now. A rustling sound came from the bushes nearby. A figure dressed in a long black trench coat stepped out, their face hidden in the shadows. The voice that came from the figure was strange, neither male nor female. I am from the Church of the King, the figure began. I didn't let them finish. The moment I heard those words, I launched a punch with everything I had. My dragon elephant power surged. I expected their head to explode like a watermelon, but instead, it felt like I hit a deflated balloon. The head hissed as air leaked out. I looked closer and realized there was no skull. There were no eyes, no nose, and no ears. There was only a single, lonely mouth hanging on a sheet of human skin. It was just a hollow suit of skin. Don't be nervous, Qin Yuan, the skin man said. The head began to inflate again, puffing back up into its original shape right before my eyes. I am a member of the Church of the King, but I am also a member of the Inverse Cross. I'm only here to deliver an invitation. I have no hostility toward you. I didn't strike again, not only because I couldn't seem to kill it, but because I was curious about this Inverse Cross. It wasn't one of the known cults. You can't kill me, and you clearly aren't trying to hurt me, I said, testing the waters. That's a start. You have 10 seconds to tell me what you want, or I'm calling the authorities. The balloon man didn't waste time. The Inverse Cross has seen your talent. We want you to join us. A small, mechanical mosquito flew out of the creature's mouth and hovered toward me. The details are in there. My job is done. I snatched the mechanical bug out of the air. When I looked up, the figure was gone. I could have tried to stop it, but there was no point. We both knew we couldn't easily kill each other. I looked at the tiny machine in my hand and decided to call Huang Su. What's up? Huang Su's voice came through my terminal. Have you heard of an organization called the Inverse Cross? I asked. Someone from the Church of the King just tried to recruit me and gave me a mechanical mosquito. There was a long silence on the other end. Kid, you're getting famous, Huang Su finally said, sounding impressed. The Inverse Cross is a big deal, even in the Star Federation. Tell me exactly what happened. I gave him the short version. Look, Huang Su explained. The Inverse Cross is basically a high-end, secret mercenary guild. They only invite people they acknowledge as elite. That mosquito is a biochip. If you use it, you can access their private mission board. It's a great way to get rare information and resources for free. Should I join? I asked. Definitely, he replied. It's a loose organization. If you ever want out, you just destroy the chip. No strings attached. I'd join myself if I could get an invite. That was all I needed to hear. After I hung up, I held the mosquito in my palm. It dissolved into a black liquid, seeping into my skin and reforming into a tiny square chip under my surface. The Church of the King, the Inverse Cross. It seemed that as I got stronger, the secrets of this world were starting to find me. I made my way to the splendid hotel. Lu Qing was waiting at the entrance, looking anxious. When she saw me, she waved us over. You're just in time, she said. The food was just served. Better to arrive at the right time than early, Li Mingmao joked. Lu Qing looked behind me. Where's Chen Yuan? He didn't stand me up, did he? He ran into someone, Li Mingmao explained. He'll be here soon. As long as he shows up, Lu Qing sighed, leading the group upstairs. The banquet hall was filled with about 30 people, all dressed in expensive suits, sipping wine and talking in low voices. When our group of students walked in, a few people glanced over, but they didn't pay us much mind. Ignore them, Lu Qing whispered to us. The food is free. Eat as much as you want. She grabbed a plate and started picking out her favorites. She clearly hated these formal events as much as I did. But we were martial artists. We didn't care about social etiquette. We headed straight for the buffet and started piling our plates high. The sound of us eating was the liveliest thing in the room. Our aggressive eating started to draw glares from the crowd. I didn't care. These people weren't here for the food. They were here to network and build connections. Lu Qing's father had organized this entire banquet specifically for him, hoping his son would use the opportunity to secure his future. But Lu Qing was too stubborn, or maybe just too honest, to play the part of the socialite. He just kept piling his plate high, completely ignoring the judgmental looks from the men in expensive suits. A moment later, two men walked through the entrance. The leader looked a lot like Lu Qing, but carried himself with much more authority. That was Lu Tao, the eldest son of the Lu family. I heard someone nearby whisper that as long as Lu Tao was around, it didn't matter if Lu Qing was a useless brat. Lu Tao could carry the family legacy while his brother lived as a rich layabout. But it was the man standing next to Lu Tao who caught my eye. He looked like he was from out of town. Lu Qing spotted them too. He gave Li Mingmao a quick nod and walked over to greet his brother. Big brother, you're late. We started ages ago, Lu Qing said with a grin. There was no drama between them, no fighting over the family inheritance. They actually got along well. Lu Tao smiled back, explaining that he had been delayed picking up a friend. He gestured toward us and asked who Lu Qing was hanging out with. Those are my friends from the first high combat room, Lu Qing said proudly. They're all martial artists. Come on, I'll introduce you. Lu Tao's smile faded slightly. He cut him off. No need. Little brother, you're graduating soon. It's time to grow up. He looked around the room. Dad threw this party for your future. These people are the ones who can help you when you're running merchant ships later. Don't waste your time. Talk to them. Don't let Dad down. Lu Qing went quiet. He knew his brother was right about their father's intentions, but he hated the idea of making friends just to use them. It felt exhausting. Seeing his brother's hesitation, Lu Tao changed the subject and introduced the man beside him. This is Wan Fong. We met while I was away on business. You like martial arts, right? Wan Fong is an aperture opening realm expert. His heaven ladder rank is in the top 120,000. Even the border army has their eye on him. You should learn from him. Wan Fong remained expressionless. He gave Lu Qing a stiff nod. I won't spar with you. I'd probably just end up hurting you. But if you have questions, I can give you a few pointers. It was awkward. Lu Qing knew the gap between a student and an aperture opening expert was a literal canyon, so he didn't argue. Lu Tao tried to smooth things over, explaining that martial artists like Wan Fong were just blunt and honest. I'll leave you to it then, Lu Qing muttered, feeling out of place. I'm going back to my friends. Lu Tao waved him off. Just learn to pick the right occasion for those friends next time. Lu Qing hurried back to us. Lu Tao, still trying to help his brother, turned to Wan Fong. My brother really loves martial arts. His friends are all practitioners too. Are you sure you don't want to chat with them? Wan Fong glanced at our table and shook his head. They're just kids at the 4th or 5th level of blood exchange. That's fine for normal people, but I have nothing to say to them. Lu Tao didn't push it. He had worked hard to build a bridge to someone as talented as Wan Fong. As the two of them moved through the hall, the crowd swarmed them like flies. Everyone wanted a piece of the Lu family's eldest son and his powerful guest. Wan Fong looked bored. He turned down every invitation, using his training as an excuse. It was clear he didn't want to be there. You look like someone kicked your dog, Li Mingmao said as Lu Qing slumped back into his seat. It was obvious Lu Qing felt like an outsider at his own party. Lu Qing didn't answer. He just started eating again, faster this time. Li Mingmao looked around at the silent, staring guests. You know, we're the only ones eating. Is this a bad look? Lu Qing dropped his chopsticks, his sadness replaced by a forced grin. A martial artist needs food to fuel their cultivation. Besides, someone told me they were going to eat me out of house and home. You giving up already? Don't look at me, Li Mingmao laughed. That was Chun Yuan's threat, not mine. Liar. You said it first, I said, stepping up behind them with a plate of my own. Chun Yuan, you finally made it, Lu Qing said, his mood instantly lifting. Who'd you run into that took so long? I got here as fast as I could, I said, shoving a piece of meat into my mouth. I'd actually taken a long, looping detour after my meeting with the mosquito guy just to make sure I wasn't being followed. At least you didn't finish all the good stuff. I thought you were going to stand me up, Lu Qing joked. Hardly anyone noticed my arrival. Except for one person. Across the room, Wan Fong froze. He stared at me, his eyes narrowing. That kid who just walked in, Wan Fong whispered to Lu Tao. Is he your brother's friend? Lu Tao was confused. He hadn't been paying attention to us at all. Yeah, that whole group is from my brother's school. What? Which school? Wan Fong asked sharply. Shanxing First High. Wan Fong's expression shifted. He went quiet for a second, then looked at Lu Tao. Come on, let's go over there. I want to meet him. Lu Tao was stunned. A minute ago, Wan Fong said we weren't worth his time. Now, he was heading straight for us. He followed behind his guest, leaving the crowd of confused socialites in their wake as Wan Fong walked directly toward me. The crowd followed Wan Fong, confused by his sudden change in attitude. Li Mingmao nudged me, his eyes scanning the room. Chun Yuan, look. The big brother is coming over. Lu Qing looked up, his face full of confusion. Why is my brother coming here? But Wan Fong didn't stop for Lu Tao. He walked straight toward me and stopped. He stared at me for a moment, then extended his hand. Wan Fong, 3rd high school in the magic capital, ranked 12th on the ladder. It's normal if you haven't heard of me. I reached out and gave his hand a brief, firm shake. A forced smile twitched on his lips. It looked awkward, almost painful. Beside him, Lu Tao looked like he'd seen a ghost. In all the years he'd known Wan Fong, he had never seen the guy smile. He'd always assumed Wan Fong had some kind of facial paralysis. Lu Tao pulled the confused Lu Qing aside, his voice hushed and urgent. Who is this Chun Yuan? What's his background? He's my friend, Lu Qing said, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. As for his background, I guess Wan Fong realized he's ranked in the top 8,000 on the ladder. Top 8,000, Lu Tao gasped. That makes him a seated student for the universities. You know someone like that, and didn't tell me. Lu Qing gave a bitter smile. He hadn't mentioned it because I wasn't there, and he didn't want to use my reputation to show off. But mostly, he'd just forgotten. I had risen so fast that he still just saw me as the same old friend. The rest of the room started to catch on. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Chun Yuan? That name sounds familiar. Are you kidding? The duel at Shanxing First High a few days ago. He beat Sheng Wanji. So that's him? The genius who broke into the top 8,000. The tone of the room shifted instantly. People who had ignored us were suddenly full of praise. I always knew Lu Qing had a good eye for friends, one socialite whispered. The Lu family boys really are something else. I frowned. I hated this. The fake smiles and the sudden flattery made my skin crawl. If I weren't here for Lu Qing, I would have walked out already. Wan Fong noticed my expression. Not used to this. He didn't wait for an answer. Suddenly, a powerful pressure exploded from his body. It was the aura of the opening orifice realm. The people nearby turned pale. They scrambled back, giving us space. When a martial artist breaks through a realm, they undergo a biological leap. To an ordinary person, an unleashed martial artist feels like a predator staring them down. Go back to whatever you were doing, Wan Fong said coldly to the crowd. I have important matters to discuss with Chun Yuan. The crowd vanished, leaving us a wide circle of privacy. I watched Wan Fong closely. He was at the early stage of the opening orifice realm, maybe even a bit weaker than Huang Su. But his actions showed exactly how much status a true martial artist held in the Federation. What do you want? I asked. I'm not a seated student, so we aren't competitors, Wan Fong said, his tone much warmer now. I just happened to see you here and wanted to introduce myself. I didn't buy it. I felt like he had another motive, but he didn't push it. For the rest of the night, He just chatted about useless small talk until the party finally wound down. As the guests left, Lu Qing turned to me with a grin. I'm not going to school tomorrow. My old man is putting me on a transport ship. Looks like I'll be hitting deep space before you, Qin Yuan. In this era, space travel was common but expensive. Most people lived their whole lives on one planet because they couldn't justify the cost of a ticket. Just message me on the terminal if you need anything, I said, waving goodbye. Graduation was close. I didn't know when I'd see these guys again. Don't get all sentimental, someone called out. Martial artists were supposed to be decisive. We didn't do long, tearful goodbyes. We just moved on to the next thing. The next day, I met Old Wu. He tossed a small black bag to me. I opened it and felt a wave of medicinal fragrance hit my face. Inside were 30 high-quality, grade 1 blood chi pills. 30. I was stunned. I had only given him 1.2 million stars. Even at the cheapest rate, that should have only bought 20 pills. He was giving me 10 for free. He wasn't even making a profit at this point. I don't have time to sell the rest, Old Wu explained. Consider it a thank you gift for the journey. Huang Su stood beside him, smiling. Today was the day they were leaving the planet. You said you're going to planet Shimo, I said. How far is that from here? Huang Su blinked, realizing he didn't actually know. Old Wu took over. Blue-White Planet is tucked away in a remote corner of the Star Federation. Shima is closer to the center, near the capital star region. The distance between them is about 50,000 light-years. 50,000 light-years. The sheer scale of that distance was staggering. It was hard to even wrap my head around a number that big. It felt like they were moving to the other side of the universe. Huang Su just laughed at my expression. He explained that Blue-White Planet didn't have many rare resources, so merchant ships rarely stopped by our neck of the woods. Today was the only window for a ship heading toward Shima. If they missed this one, they might be stuck waiting for months or even years. It was time for them to go. I tilted my head and gave them a final nod. See you next time, I said. The university entrance exams are broadcast live across the entire Star Federation, Huang Su said with a wide grin. We'll be watching and cheering for you from Shimo. Don't embarrass us, kid. If you kick some serious ass, I can brag to all my new neighbors that I know the famous Chun Yuan. Old Wu let out a dry chuckle, his eyes crinkling. Don't worry, I replied, feeling a surge of confidence. Just watch the screen. I'll make sure you have plenty to brag about. I couldn't help but laugh. It was a bold claim, but I meant every word. Huang Su hopped into the transport, the doors hissing shut. I stood there waving as the vehicle pulled away and headed toward the spaceport. Every party has to end eventually. I wasn't upset, though. In this world, strength was the only thing that kept people together. If I kept climbing, I'd see them again. I turned my attention to the black bag in my hand. I didn't waste any time. I consumed the 30 blood chi pills, feeling the familiar rush of heat as the system began to refine the medicinal energy. The power surged through my limbs, knitting my cells back together and washing away the fatigue of my previous breakthroughs. I checked my status. In an instant, my remaining lifespan skyrocketed to 241 years. The crushing weight of my impending death finally lifted. I took a deep breath, feeling the raw power thrumming under my skin. The university entrance exam was just around the corner. I was ready.